Bart. Okay, welcome everybody one more time. This is our little soiree, conspiracy or not. Here we come. And tonight it is Friday, February 16th. This is prediction day. Our friend Mark from Global Agenda has predicted that Bob Dylan might have an accident today. I guess there's a lot of people talking about Bob Dylan. But anyway, I want to say hello to Bart and Amy and welcome our guest, Influence Freedom. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Howdy,
Bart,
howdy.
how you doing, Bart?
Yeah, really good. How you doing?
How you doing?
You're still sharing screens there.
Yeah,
Bart.
and you're unhighlighted. See, I didn't have to be remembered this time, but
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get everything set up. We've got Influence Freedom tonight. We're going to be talking about the stars above and the stars below, how Hollywood is, the stars in Hollywood are intimately connected to the stars above your heads. You know, one of the things that really kind of surprises me is that considering the kind of work that she does, which is pretty amazing stuff, by the way, I'm surprised that she has such a low view count, and I'm surprised that she has such a low subscriber count. So, Amy, if you would, go grab her link, drop it in the live chat. I'll ask people to go on over and subscribe to Influence Freedom if you're interested in this topic. She does great work. Along the way, we'll probably be referencing some other people. If you're interested in deeper information regarding this subject that other people can go and check out. And after the live broadcast, I will drop some links for some more resources for some other people. And by the way, speaking of subscribing to channels, Bart, have you hit 100 yet?
I think I'm at 97.
Oh, 3 more. Okay.
Last I looked, I was at 90.
Amy, if you would, please go ahead and drop Bart's link.
I'll drop them both.
Thank you. And everybody, do me a favor. We need Bart to get to 100 subscribers. I'm pretty sure that's the number. That's the magic ticket for him to be able to host shows. So just in case something happens to me, like if I get a strike, you know, we can keep plugging along. We can get Bart to host the shows, whatever. So go subscribe to Bart's channel. And any minute now, one of these days, he's actually going to start producing his own videos because I keep poking him in the ass.
Nice.
So Influence Freedom, we have Influence Freedom with us today. And I'm really excited about this topic. It is literally probably one of my favorite subjects of all. But what we have had happen this past Wednesday, we had another incident at another school. Does anybody believe this shit?
Not in the least.
What about the anthrax?
I believe there was an incident.
Right.
What about the anthrax? I don't know if you guys heard, but apparently it wasn't actually anthrax, right? But there was the story was that Donald Trump Jr.'s wife was rushed to the hospital after opening an envelope addressed to him, by the way. Why is she opening his mail? But there it is. There's, you know,
I wondered that myself. Wait a minute, what's she doing opening an envelope addressed to him? I think it's all bogus BS.
I totally missed this story.
Did you?
Shay, how often do you grab onto a story like a current event story and get into your star chart and look to see what's happening and how it might relate? Do you do that?
Almost everyone.
Really good, cool.
The thing is it's hard if you're not on the inside. It is kind of hard to understand how something relates and if it does relate or if it just looks like it relates. But I do look at everything that they're trying to bring forward. But I hadn't heard about the anthrax one.
Okay, well, again, I didn't mean to misspeak. It was part of the narrative. It really wasn't part of the narrative. It was just part of the scare because of the previous anthrax. Nobody said it was anthrax. It was just white powder. And
okay.
So, you know, assuming that the story is true, that there was an envelope with powder and she opened it, it would make sense to rush her to the hospital to make sure, right? Put her on Cipro, just to make sure. And not only that, but I also heard that somebody else had a letter. Same thing, white powder in a letter. And, God, you know, I didn't even look into this story. I just heard it and went, okay, right, and just moved on, right? It's one of those things that I don't even give a shit about.
Right.
And you know, I really don't want to wish ill on anybody, but screw those people. If they got anthrax, that's the least of my problems.
Yeah, really.
Right? It's understandable.
Yeah, let me see. Hey, Derek is in the chat. He said white powder was a hoax by the numbers. I think I didn't watch that video, but I saw that you had a video there. He dropped the link in there. Cool. Mad Pie Man, Double Hoop Nation just uploaded a video. Yeah, Double Hoop Nation. We're going to be talking about him a little bit because we're going to cover this Florida bullshit a little bit later on. I think originally I thought we were going to have Mark from Global Agenda come in, and you know, normally when I open a show, even with a guest, a lot of times I like to do a good, you know, beginning of the show, 30 minutes, you know, just going over current events. But I really just want to brush over what I have here. We're going to come back to the Florida thing later on when Mark is done doing what he's doing, when he can come hang out with us. Mark will be with us a little bit later on, probably the last hour. And so we'll go over the Florida thing in detail then with Mark. And, you know, I did notice there was a couple of interesting things with the Florida thing relating to certain numbers, particularly the 911 code. And there was an 88 code I found somewhere, and I'm going to have to dig through my notes. I've got several pages of notes for this week. But what have you found so far on the Florida thing? Influence?
I haven't really looked at the Florida thing because I usually like to give stuff a little bit of time to develop to see where it starts to go. And I try to stay away from a lot of the gematria and stuff. I do look at the numbers, but I do kind of try to stay away from the gematria. However, going into the gematria of it, it was very interesting. A lot of the numbers were, again, though I don't really get into that, and I haven't really looked at the Florida thing. Honestly, it's just one of those things when they're doing the school ones. It more or less bothers the heart that I know that they're targeting the kids specifically. They're making it a point to leave this impression upon their souls forever, marking this fear into them over this school. And it's for me, it's just a more delicate subject that I like to take more time with for myself personally. And I know people have their belief that some stuff is hoax, some stuff could be maybe a Merck sent in, who knows? I don't know. So I do kind of stay reserved on specifically things like school shootings, because no matter what's going on, I know that they're traumatizing kids in that generation horribly, because I think Celery had said, even the most hardened criminal doesn't shoot up kids. So there's something wrong with this whole school shooting stuff over these years. Even the most hardened criminal doesn't go around shooting up the kids, because
right.
And in the prison system itself, they'll kill you. for stuff, you know?
No,
So
that's right. I was going to say that. Yeah.
right. So there's
If they find out you're like a child molester in prison, then you're on the top of the list.
right. So there's something
Yep.
inherently insane going on, and I don't know exactly what it is, but it's definitely a control mechanism. So even if something was real, it is still a complete control mechanism over the next generation of begging for more protectionism and fear mongering, and it's just so vile and evil. I have a really hard time embracing those narratives and the mindset for some reason.
Well, it's social engineering. We covered this last week. I think it was last week, or maybe the week before, where I showed some what was it? Kindergartners, 4, 5, 6-year-old kids, all the way down to kindergarten levels, are doing these active shooter drills.
Yeah.
And the kids that age. First of all, there's just so many things wrong with doing the drills, period, because you're just terrorizing the kids.
Yep.
And
Very true.
And sometimes the drills are fairly, they're what's kind of the word I'm looking for? That the cops, they use flash grenades and loud bangs, and they even get some of the kids, like drama kids, to play roles where they dress them up in moulage and blood and gore. And then they train these kids to duck and cover. And then they train these kids to all get in line with their hands in the air and single file exit the building like they're all criminals. Everybody has to keep their hands in the air the whole freaking time.
Yeah.
It's treating people like criminals. It's getting people used to the idea of following orders. When a guy with a badge and a gun tells you to do something, you snap to. So it's pure terrorism on every level. And then on top of that, the actual training that they're doing, they're training these kids to like get down on the floor and just sit still.
Yep.
And Bart made an excellent point either last week or the week before, where he said, it would make more sense if you train the kids to go ape shit and everybody run a different direction.
Right.
Because, after all, you don't want to be a target, right? That's the whole point. You want to keep people safe. You want moving targets for a shooter. And it just doesn't make any sense. Nothing they're doing is making any sense.
Nothing is making any sense, exactly. And let's just say hypothetically that everything is exactly as they were claiming it was. Then aren't all this memorialization that they're doing, memorializing shooters, aren't they actually pushing copycat behavior then? So just every single thing they're doing just screams out control and fear. And yeah, it's just so messed up. It's very hard to take that all in. I hate seeing their souls and minds poisoned with it, and I hate feeling ours, my own, poisoned with it.
Johnny Supertramp is in the chat. He said the government's using children to emotionally manipulate the public into pressuring politicians to pass legislation. He's absolutely correct.
Yep.
And if you guys have noticed with this most recent Florida thing, the new hashtag is take action. And there are like news headlines running around. They're everywhere where they're saying shit like, we don't need your prayers. We don't need your condolences. We need action. Remember earlier today, I was joking with you guys and I said, talk about that kitten video.
Yep.
We need kitten videos now. Take action. What's Trump going to do about the kitten videos? We need action now. That was a play on words because of this hashtag that's going around now.
Right.
So, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've been screaming gun control, and even my wife, she's politically awake, but she's not like, awake to all the hoaxes and stuff. She even said to me the other day about, you've been screaming about gun control and they haven't done it. Well, guess what, honey? That doesn't mean they weren't going to do it.
But they actually did do gun control in several ways. And one of the ways, like after Sandy Hook, was Connecticut passed laws and New York passed laws instantly overnight. Automatically, when New York passed the laws, it basically outlawed a bunch of guns that were already existed. Now, I had already went through it one time with them. I think it was in the early 90s or the late 80s that they made us change how many rounds that we could have. and our shotguns and stuff. So everybody kind of, oh, well, all right. And then after Sandy Hook, again, they changed the amount of rounds that could be held. And so did Connecticut. And they started the whole, you know, you got to turn these guns in there. And you know, there's this campaign constantly going on in Connecticut and New York because people aren't obeying. And so they have, you know, now they're starting with the threatening. If you do this and you don't do that, then you're going to be charged with this. And it's ridiculous. So when people say that there isn't any gun control coming of this, there is. There's lots of gun control coming over it, whether it's the amount of rounds, the capacity, the amount of shells, how it scares people into buying a bunch of shells. So then there isn't shells because there becomes a shortage. Like I heard JT and Tony talking about that yesterday, how, you know, they couldn't get the 22 shells for almost 2 years. You had to stand in line and know when they were going to be, but you could get these other rounds, you know, but not those. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff all involved in that. It's just so much to take in. It's just, it's crazy.
Well, one thing I'm noticing is that there's an awful lot of calling for mental health evaluations. Yep. If you want to get something to defend yourself with. Okay, what that basically means is that they can choose who gets to arm themselves.
That's right.
i.e., they can say, oh, you don't buy our bullshit, you're mentally unstable, you don't get a gun.
Yep.
You know, you don't think that we should do things the way we're doing them with us in power. You're mentally unstable, you don't get a gun. And pretty soon, only the people that they want to have armed will be armed. And the rest of us will be unarmed. And then...
And they have been going after, you know, the truth research, you know, conspiracy community.
Yep.
We had, by the way, in the news right now, Professor Doom, for those of you who know who that is, Professor Doom is back in jail. Apparently, stabbed 5 people.
What did he do? What did he do?
Apparently the story is that he got in, I guess he got into a scuffle and he stabbed somebody 5 times. So Professor Doom is back in jail. And then we had, you know, what was it, last year or the year before? It was early last year, I think.
Justin Woolley.
Yeah.
By the way, who lives in my neck of the woods. Yeah, he went ape shit. So I don't know if he was a plant. I don't know if that's a bullshit story. If he was, you know, one of those sleeper cells who was designed to help make the truther community look shitball crazy, because the mental health issue was a big deal. And by the way, this Florida thing, in one of the articles or interviews, I heard somebody say that this character, Nicholas Cruz, said that he wanted to shoot the sheeple, or he wanted to watch the sheeple die, something like that. But he used the word sheeple, or they used the word as though he had previously spoken that. So that stuck out to me like a hammer. You know, you're reading a book and having a sledgehammer fly out and smack you in the forehead.
Yep.
I went, wait a minute. Nobody says sheeple unless you're either awake or at least aware of this community and the kind of vernacular that we use. You know what I mean? It's not the kind of language a common person uses. They don't say things like sheeple, referring to other people.
True. Yeah, that's clearly engineered to disparage the people who are looking around and going, that don't make no sense. So yeah, not happy with what they're doing at all.
So like, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But yeah, go ahead. Please go ahead. I just
Blue Blood Guitar posted Cruz equals cross, which I thought was interesting that his name was Nicholas de Jesus Cruz.
Yeah, we're gonna go into that. I just want to throw out one.
Okay.
I just wanted to throw out one more quick note on my headlines. You know, things for the week today is the 50th anniversary of the 911 emergency call service.
Oh. Is it
Whoa.
the 50th, huh?
Today is the 50th anniversary of the 911 call service.
It had been around that long. I thought maybe I was 10 or something when it first came out. But wow.
And we're going to circle back to that, because 911 being an emergency call, that's going to play into the significance of the conversation that we're going to have in just a little while, referring to the 88 code, birth of Christ, the constellations, and all that. So that's also an interesting topic. And on the subject of Nicholas Cruz, and I'll probably bring this up a little bit later on, but the connections that I had found was we have, and somebody said in the chat earlier, there was a mention Nikola Tesla, the car. Yes, Cruz is cross in Spanish and Portuguese. Wednesday, when the thing happened, it was Ash Wednesday, which is for the Catholics. That's when you get a cross on your forehead. Okay. So we have Nicholas Cruz, or Nicholas Cross, Nicholas de Jesus, or Jesus.
Right. Cross, yeah, exactly.
So Jesus, the guy who hung on the cross, right?
Yeah. And what was the sheriff's name?
Oh, yeah. Israel, right.
Yeah. Israel.
Well, and don't forget to, loop it back into Vegas, where there was Jesus Campos.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So you get and then Campos is field in Spanish, and so is paddock. Paddock means a field.
That's right.
So I wanted to see if Shay has any insights into the term or the word field as it relates to biblical stuff, astrological stuff, astrotheological stuff.
I would only look at it based on, is it the harvest or something like that? I don't.
Well, you harvest the field,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So
there's always, they seem to constantly be harvesting something. They're harvesting either our blood, like after 9/11, or after the harvest festival, or they're harvesting our energy, or they're harvesting our outrage supposedly for change. But yeah, it is constantly harvesting us for something. It's just freaky.
Some of the other connections that I came up with, this Florida character, Nicholas de Jesus Cruz. Nicholas is, reminded me of Saint Nick, aka Santa, the guy who comes around at Christmas, which is Christ Mass,
right?
As in mass shooting. There's a reference to Christ. There's a reference to mass shooting. And on top of that, we have Nicholas, which we just had the Elon Musk Tesla car, which is a Nikola Tesla, and it's now cruising the solar system.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that, you ever see the intro to the movie Heavy Metal?
Yeah.
From 1981, when he drives that car out the rocket ship around the Earth.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The spaceman. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's somebody who's a graphic designer, a new version of that, and I actually have a clip of that in one of my recent videos that I uploaded last week on the Tesla car. So yeah, it was a comparison that the image that they give us of the Tesla car doesn't look any better. In fact, looks worse than this guy who did it on his own free time, just for practice, and then uploaded it to YouTube, where he remade the beginning of Heavy Metal.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
So, influence. Did you look at any of did you get into your star chart and look at what time or what star alignments, constellation alignments were happening when when Elon Musk, I like to call him Musk Ox, because I think his whole program stinks.
Yes.
Anyway, do you have anything on that as far as star chart alignments?
No, I didn't. And honestly, I really did slack this week on looking at the star chart for certain things. I looked at the star chart when it came to Natalie Wood, because I thought it was very odd that they were bringing her up again with Robert Wagner and Christopher Walken. So, and I did a quick little video on the Natalie Wood one. And then when the car went out, you know, when the whole Elon Musk space Starman went out or whatever, I kind of ignored it as best I could for a little bit, because people are debating, you know, did this happen? Didn't it happen? Whatever. But the thing with this, the Jesus and De Cruz and the cross and everything, when I show you guys the presentation, you'll see why they I think you'll see why I believe that they're continuing that specific narrative. Because the narrative is always biblical in nature.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And speaking of presentation, just before we even get started, because I really want to know, I want that app, whatever program you're using, which program, which constellation app are you using to do?
Oh, okay. So yeah, get Stellarium for your computer if you want to.
Stellarium.
Yeah, if you want to learn about the movie stars, the movies, the biblical scripture, songs, you need to have Stellarium. If you can get Stellarium on your phone and you're willing to pay for that app for the paid version, and you've got that, what is it, gyro motion in your phone, like the higher end Apples and Samsung, wherever you rotate your phone to, it'll actually show you the constellation below you, around you.
Okay.
Yeah, so they have some pretty amazing star out there.
So I assume there's a free version and a paid version, like you said. There's a paid version.
There is a paid version, I believe, of the Stellarium for the phone. Now, I don't have it for my phone because I don't have that high tech of a phone. I do have a smartphone, but not that smart.
Okay.
And
I installed
Stellarium. Here, I'll type it in the chat. It's STER. Yeah. Oh my God. Now hold on. Stellarium. LLARIUM. I have to spell it out for myself. I just put it in the chat.
Yeah, I tried to install it, but every time I try to run it, it tells me that there's some OpenGL problem on my computer.
Yeah, it told me that the first time, and then I just ignored it, and it doesn't give me any problems otherwise.
Well, every time I've tried to open it quite a number of times, and it keeps giving me that error.
There's other ones you can do, but honestly, but here's the other thing. Once you get familiar with where the stars are and the season, so if you follow the star chart yourself for, say, a year or two, you're going to kind of already know that right now specifically is the time of year in the East. Right now, Sirius is already over our head, you know, and you kind of learn when Orion and Sirius will rise and when they kind of start to fade away after the 5 months, and Sirius's time is over at the time of the equinox. And you'll also, once you kind of know right where the moon is, so let's say one night you know that the moon is in Virgo, then you'll know that the next night or the night after it's going to already be over in Libra, because the moon only takes about 2 nights per sign. It takes 3 nights in the bigger signs, you know, like Virgo is such a long constellation. So it takes a lot longer. But once you'll really start to get a feel for that. And then when you're watching the movies and you understand that that's what the movie stars are, is the actual constellation representations of what's going on. It's pretty wild. I mean, it's really wild. And I'll give you one example. The equinox specifically was, or not the equinox, the eclipse, you know, on what was it, August 21st or something?
Yes.
So yeah, so I went outside and I was watching the eclipse, and I put on the Dark Side of the Moon album. And if you really pay attention to the words when they're saying run, rabbit, run, dig that hole, forget the sun.
Yeah.
Well, the day of that eclipse, the rabbit Lepus is sitting on the horizon line, digging the hole in the ground, and as the sun is racing up behind him again, going into the eclipse, right?
Wow.
So that album fit to that specific eclipse, and I was just sitting there going, this is freaking crazy, you know. But once you understand the star chart that way, and then you listen to the music, it just it changes. It's like everything just changes. It's like it's kind of like you got a hold of Marty's almanac in Back to the Future. You're kind of understanding something just a little bit deeper. You don't I don't fully understand anything because it's so insane, but it's just almost like that door opened just a little bit more. Now, I don't know if that's a good thing. That door could be sucking me right in, you know. It could be like Alice falling through the rabbit hole kind of thing, you know, with Virgo and Lepus and stuff. But at the same time, if you really want to understand what the elite are doing, which I do, I want to understand the code language that they're talking in. And it is clear that people are seeing the code because people see things like the one-eyed symbolism and stuff. But I knew in my heart that there has to be a reason why they consistently stick with it. I'll shut up for right now before I go in anymore, and then you can let me know.
I just want to interject here. You may notice that I have an eye in my icon.
Right.
And
yeah.
I want to assure you that that is not their eye. That is an eye that I painted maybe 20, 25 years ago in Photoshop before I knew any of this stuff, you know. Did was the eye of consciousness and the complete graphic tiles to make the field of consciousness, which if anybody visits any of my, you know, like my channel on YouTube, well, in the background, how it's tiled into a field of eyes. And it represents every conscious, aware being in this universe, i.e. humans, for example.
Right.
I was
so that's what mine means. That I'm taking that the adapt, just like this are primbles.
I was listening to Manly P. Hall today. There's a 9-hour presentation that you guys can go and check out, and I'll probably put the link in the description after the broadcast because it's a wealth of information. It's strictly on astrotheology, and I was outside working and just listening to this lecture for hours, and he did mention Amaterasu Solar as being the Japanese solar deity among all of the other solar deities.
Actually, it's not Amaterasu Solar. It's just Amaterasu. She is the Shinto goddess of the sun. Yes. And yep. I have Solar as a last name. So he will mention Amaterasu, but he will not.
Okay, well then
making it Solar.
Yeah. Okay,
but
well
he will say the solar deity.
Yeah. So influence. How did you get started into this? Just give us. I know we're already 35 minutes in here, but let's take a step back for a second, and why don't you just tell us how you got started, and you know what kind of things maybe you had to tell us about your trigger moment, because everybody has their waking trigger moment, and before we do, I just want to go ahead and give a shout out to Josh. He's in the live chat right now. Truth Undenied. He is his podcast is called We'll Do It Live. He's bringing back the old We'll Do It Live podcast. He's working with Gandalf, and he's hanging out with us tonight. He's going to postpone his show by an hour because he wants to chill and hang out and listen to Influence and her presentation. And then I'm going to go hang out with Josh later on after the show. So I just want to give a major shout out and a plug to Josh and his podcast that he's working on good stuff, good people, good information. It's a free flow conversation, and he invites virtually anybody who wants to come and add to the conversation. He's a good dude. So check out his podcast. And back to you, Influence. Bring us up to speed. Who are you? How'd you get started?
Okay, so I was hanging out in the so-called truther community for a while. And anyways, I was always looking at videos, and I stumbled across Jay Widener's video on Kubrick's Odyssey, specifically based on the not the Shining one, but he did one specifically dealing with Space Odyssey. So it was called Kubrick's Odyssey. He did two of them. One was about The Shining, and one was about the Space Odyssey. And he was pointing out that it was the perfect alchemical movie, because what he does is he shows that every time there's an alignment in the Space Odyssey, that a monolith appears. And when that monolith appears, it's almost like that's the advancement of human civilization. So we went from the monkey throwing the bone in the air to when that alignment happens and they touch the monolith, to all of a sudden they're on the moon. And then you have the monolith, and then you're on the space station, and then he's in the room with the monolith. And then how when the audience was sitting there in the theater, and you got to imagine, like, way back then, they're tripping on acid going and seeing this movie in the theater, and it's, you know, freaking them out or whatever. I don't mean freaking them out, but you know what I mean? Like, it's got to be a wild flick back then, tripping on acid, right? So they're sitting there watching an actual alchemical process. And what a lot of the people in the audience didn't understand is that they were actually partaking in the alchemical process, because they're watching the monolith. That is the movie screen. It's that rectangle that they're watching, that black cube, and they're transcending emotionally into the film. And he's showing how that process occurs through an alignment, right? That there's these alignments, and then this happens. So then if you go and you look at Barely Human, the Barely Human 11 channel, and you look at 9/11 prediction and Back to the Future, and you remember that Marty McFly, every time he reaches 88 miles per hour is when he reaches the film booth or the drive-in screen or the atomic theater. So every time he transcends through the film. And I'm like, okay, now that is powerful right there, because once you understand that, and then you go back and look at 9/11, and you look at the Hilton Hotel, and you realize that that is resembling the monolith. And we're all staring at the Stargate on 9/11, a virtual mental Stargate. Like, you know, we're virtually being brought there through our television screens, and we're partaking in that monolith moment. And I'm like, holy crap, there's a lot of truth to this. So I just kind of put that in my mindset, like, okay, this is some really interesting stuff. And then at the same time, I happened to have been getting into looking at synchromysticism. And I was doing that again through things like the Barely Human channel, or Sea Lion, Celion, which is an anagram for Lois Lane. And they had a whole bunch of videos on the movies where they show the common theme with something like Charlize Theron, where if you understand her movies, she's constantly represented as Monster. She's even in the movie Monster. And they're constantly putting her with the wolf. She's wearing the wolf shirts, the wolf this, the wolf that. And I'm like, you know, why would they constantly be a wolf, right? Why would that person be transitioning from a wolf to a raven to then they've got the mirror on the wall. And when you pull up the star chart, it makes sense. And that's what I want to show people, how that works. And I can show you with simply things like Puff the Magic Dragon.
Yeah.
I can show you with Constantine. I can show you in the scripture of 9/11 how Revelations 9 is the entire scripture, and how to pull up that star chart and look at it. And when you realize that I should probably share my screen now explaining this, so I can at least show you guys some images as I'm explaining it.
Sure, if you want to.
Awesome.
Yeah, let me do that.
You know, after I watched a couple of your videos, and you brought that point up in your videos about how they continually reuse these movie stars in they recycle certain aspects of the characters that these actors play. Like you just said, Charlize Theron, she's always portrayed somehow associated with the wolf, whether it's a T-shirt or maybe she's walking a wolf sheepdog or something like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And from one movie to the next, these actors, and hang on, let me highlight your icon so that you're full screen for everybody. After you mentioned that, I started noticing that, and boy, I got to tell you, that's no joke. I couldn't give examples off the top of my head, but you are absolutely right. They continually reuse. In fact, I'm going to start making videos on this subject because I think it's so fascinating and so deep and so relevant to everything. And if you consider all the stuff that's happening in the world, in the news and the events and everything, with the names, the dates, the places, like this character Nicholas Jesus Cruz, and you know the terrorist attacks of 9/11, the significance, the symbolism, the timing. It doesn't matter if it's a cartoon, a movie, a sitcom, a school shooting, a terrorist attack, a movie. It just doesn't seem to matter that there's always a reference to the stars, to the heavens, and which again goes back to the Bible, because everything in the Bible is all astrotheology. So go ahead. I'll give it back to you.
Okay, so all right, so first let me start by saying, if you open and you look at the Freemasons, we understand that they've got Jacob's ladder, and if you know the rungs of the ladder, it's Zeus, Saturn. It actually is planetary. If you know about the pillars and you understand the sun, the moon, the stars, you understand that they are obsessed with this. They are. So it doesn't. We're seeing their obsession because they have the power and the control in the movie. So they're feeding us their obsession. Now, if you also go to the Skull and Bones and you look at their obsession again, you have here a clock, and you see it's 8 o'clock, 8:12, right? 8 with the hand on the 12. And the Skull and Bones thing is the clock. So the grandfather clock is given to each Bones member because it's time.
Yeah, it's Chronos.
So, right. So if you're going to follow time, and that's everything that's part of your code, your language, the ultimate clock of all is the clock of the universe.
That's right. The stars. That's the ultimate clock.
Yep.
Right. So now if you go say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to open that. So we'll start real quick with, say, Revelations 9. I know a lot of people did Revelations 12, but let's go back to
that was really awesome. That Revelation 12 thing where Jupiter moved into Virgo.
Yeah, and I'm going to show you something more on that, actually. Yeah. So if we read it, it says, the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. Now, I don't know if you guys seen the movie 12 Monkeys, where Brad Pitt keeps getting up in Bruce Willis's face with the key going, it's a moon key. You get it? Moon key, right? He keeps yelling that to him in his face. And they're literally, that's how they're talking. That's what they're really saying. No, really, look at the moon key. So he opened the bottomless pit, and arose smoke out of the pit as the smoke of the great furnace, and the sun and air were darkened by reason of the smoke on the pit. So what we need is markers here. Are we talking about the stars? So if we go to the time and hour, I'm using the sky in Jerusalem. And the reason I'm going to use it from Jerusalem's view is that the Hebrews are the big influence in the Bible. So even though the Romans and people got together, it is Hebrew. So I'm going to use the Jerusalem sky. And what I see is right away, we've got the star falling from heaven into the bottomless pit. So when they're talking about the stars in the bottomless pit, anything on this horizon line, right,
the entrance to the bottomless pit.
Right. And it could be represented as something like Stephen King's It, where the clown is down in the gutter and you have the boat. Let me show you. So the little boy sails the boat on the water, and the Milky Way is the water. So as far as that's why they call it the deluge and all this other stuff. That's just part of their narrative.
Well, the Milky Way is associated with water. The Milky Way is the Ouroboros.
Yeah, so
it's the great serpent.
So when you look at Sirius, they link Sirius to the clown. Is why you see the clowns everywhere, because it's linked specifically to Sirius. Why so serious? Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, the big smiley face on the back of his jacket. Just remember that, because when I show you the John Wick and the Constantine, you'll be like, oh, okay, that is Sirius. He's wearing the jacket with the smiley face, and I will explain that. But ultimately, the clown Sirius is down in the gutter, and the little boy, right, he sails the boat and it goes into the gutter and it goes into the bottomless pit, right, to the clown. So what we have with the scripture is, that's what they're telling us, is that the star fell from heaven. Okay, so we look with the twins that morning. Just let me know if my thing's skipping too much or I'm going too fast.
No, you're fine. Take your time. Okay. We're with you.
Okay. I do get nervous saying all this information because it's so much information, and I know people, it's so much to take in, but I thank you guys for bearing with me.
No problem.
So anyways, what happened that morning on 9/11 is the moon key with the twins, with our number 42 Jupiter, were with the twins. Okay. And so they are falling into the pit. So the twins are going to disappear. And then we have the locusts and the scorpions now are going to rise. See over here? Okay. And then in the meantime, we have Lupus, the beast, the wolf, Therion, right?
Wait. What was that last word? The name Therion?
Therion. Yeah. So
like Charlize Therion?
Right. So they linked her to Lupus because, right, because her name is Theron. So they put it as Therion, and they put her in that whole lexicon.
See, that's cool.
Yeah. So what they do is they put her with Lupus, and then that's why she changes into the bird. And then directly across the sky from her is Cassiopeia over here in the north, right, across from the wolf. So the beast and the beauty, who's always looking in the mirror in the north.
The beauty is always looking in the mirror.
Yeah, see Cassiopeia.
Is that why we see so much mirror symbolism in like videos like Beyonce and movies?
Yep. And the reason you got the vampire and the wolf is you got Corvus, the bird, with Lupus, the wolf, right? So the raven and the wolf, the Dracula and the wolf's narratives, you know, this is all. So as I'm figuring it out, what it appears to me is that, and I'm going to have to just say it, you know, the Jews who hire these people, take scripts or then put themselves in place as producer and director and stuff. The way it looks is that they write their stories actually based on the stars.
Right.
So they're not just writing any random story. They know when the sun's going to set in the movie, when the moon's going to rise, when this character is going to be defeated by this character, how they're going to be defeated. They get the entire cast of characters, and the symbolism within the films is actually representative of it. So that's what I'm going to show you again. So hold on. I'm sorry. So going back to Revelations.
No, that's fine.
Okay. So again, it says, and came out of the smoke locusts on the earth, and had given power as the scorpions. So now we have the star falling in the sky with the twins in the west, and we have the scorpions now of the earth are going to take power. Okay.
So the scorpions rising over the horizon at that time.
Well, the scorpions are now coming up. Yeah, they're now coming up. But right now the sun is over the bottomless pits. The twins are going to go down. And you continue to read, and it says right down here in number 8, and they had the hair as the hair of the woman and the teeth of the lions. So here's the hair of the woman, Coma Berenices, and the teeth of the lions.
Oh, wow. That lock of hair right above Virgo.
Yeah. So, and then they had the tails under the scorpions with their stings, and see, and it says hurt men 5 months. Well, if you start, when you follow Scorpio's rule, Scorpio does its path over the sky for about 5 months. It actually is 5 months. So then So then you go to Revelations 9:11, and they had the king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, and the Greek tongue in Apollyon. So then if we just simply do a quick YouTube, or not YouTube, a quick search, and we go 9/11 memorial, and then we go to the images.
Oh yeah, the memorial. That's that, and
that's the bottomless pits.
Where the water. Yes.
Right. So now, when you take into account that you've got this monolith and everything's being brought to you through film, and all the film kept showing since they started the films, somehow relationships to 9/11, 88, the 666 cycle, and you start to see that pattern. Now you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
And it can be quite crazy. I mean, it's just, oh my God. So here, let me show you guys an example. So I just want to show you that that is the actual scripture. See, we're not dealing, if you read this scripture, nothing here actually gives a prophecy. It's the way that they're talking. See the heads of the lions, the heads of the horses. They're like exaggerating the stories. You know, you got the serpents and their tails, but ultimately they're still talking about the stars, except for that last part. Neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts. And that's what they do to us, is this sorcery through all of this, because we get into the flow of their pattern. And in the meantime, they're using the grandest clock of all for their events. That's why it's part of their secret society, the Freemasons setting the stone, the clock, it's all there. So
this is like the bottom of the rabbit hole right here.
Yeah, this is pretty, and let me tell you, it's very hard to get people to accept any of this at all until you show them, and that's why I'll go, what should I do? I'll do Constantine.
Sure.
And I'll show you guys what I mean. And those of you who are subscribed to me that are listening, you've already seen this. And I really appreciate your support. And I appreciate my friends who have bared with me. And you have no idea the torture that they go through on a day-to-day basis, listening to me going, oh, this, and I'll just ramble stuff off. And I'm not really trying to force any engagement. I just like to put it out there, just to put it out there, whether anybody's paying attention or not. I just want to share, you know.
Let me ask you a sidebar question. Something that I had noticed a while back, and I made a point when we were talking with 17 Stormy 17 many months ago. This character by the name of Jack. I had made some connections that Jack goes back to the biblical Jacob, and how many nursery rhymes, how many movie characters are named Jack? It's remarkable. I mean, it's stunning when you stop and you think about how many times the name Jack.
Absolutely.
So, speaking of Jack,
Jack and Jill went up the hill. There are dozens of nursery rhymes. There's Lumberjack. I can see over there playing with his axe. He's the lumberjack. There's Jack of all trades. There's kids play the game called Jacks. And when you were showing your star chart, and you're still showing, I want you to hold it up there. There's the movie series with Johnny Depp, right? Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yes.
I think it was episode 2 or the second movie where he gets eaten up by the Kraken, which is another reference to the great serpent or the sea monster. But his name is Jack Sparrow.
Yes, because, okay, so I'm going to explain that.
Yeah, do it. There's the ship, there's the bird, there's the serpent. Do it. Go.
Right, so you have the birds, you have Columba and Corvus over here, and you have the ship. But if you go to the very last Pirates of the Caribbean movie, the girl, Karina, is her name. And if you look at the back end of the boat that used to be Argo Novus, the ship, they split it into 3 constellations now of Vela, Puppis, and Karina.
Puffus?
So, Yeah, Puppis is Pups is Puppis is the front of the ship, Vela is the sail, and Carina is the back. It used to be Argo Novus back, before they split it into different constellations. So in the last Pirates of the Caribbean, her name is Carina, and they ask her, well, who's your father? And she says, he's the brightest star in the North sky. So they're telling you it is the stars. Like they're endlessly trying to tell people.
Oh my God. And I'm a big movie buff, and I can tell you 100% that they always are. They put it in the freaking dialogue where they tell you, somebody in the dialogue will say it's in the sky or it's in the stars. They tell you all the time.
Right. And so now if you go, say, over to The Shining, all right, and you realize that, again, you've got the twins, and it's the blood scene. So the moment you see the twins is the moment all the blood's coming, right? Because there's something about these twins in the blood. I don't know. And you've got the father, Jack Nicholson. And what does he say when he's going, I'm gonna huff and puff, right? In The Shining, right? Because he's the wolf. And in several of the movies, labeled this wolf character Jack, right? And and then you got Danny, number 42, right? Little Danny's got 42 on his shirt. So we're dealing with Jupiter when we're dealing with 42, the rainbow, which can also be the rainbow because they say he rose up on the cloud, and he has the open book, the open scroll, which is Ophiuchus. I can never say his name right.
Ophiuchus.
Ophiuchus. And okay, let me go to Constantine just to show you how it's done in the movies. All right, so folder.
So this is the year of the dog, right? And you mentioned earlier at the opening of the show, you mentioned that Sirius is above our head right now.
Yeah, right now. Well, yeah, right now. Yeah.
Today is the beginning of the Chinese New Year, and this is the year of the dog.
Yeah, I would like to know why they're so obsessed with this, but I don't think I will, other than I know what I was going to show you before I show you Constantine. All right, so you know how everybody was worried about Revelations 9:23 or Revelations 12, I'm sorry, because of 9:23 and that alignment, that alignment did happen in the stars. It did actually follow the scripture, but I decided that I'm looking at the way that they're portraying this stuff in the movies. And of course I follow 88 Finis Temporis's channel, who's very much about the 9/11/88 code, the nuclear connection, and understanding why 88 is important and things like Back to the Future and stuff like that.
We're going to cover some of that in a little bit.
Right. So when he's sitting there, now I just totally messed up where I was going with that.
Something you were going to show us before Constantine.
12. Yeah, Revelations 12. Oh my God. I hate that. It's so much information. I start to get overwhelmed with it.
Yeah, don't even worry about it.
I can relate to that.
Yeah. It was specifically, okay, let me go to Revelations 12, see if I can. Oh, okay. I know what it was. All right. So everybody knows about that star sign. And if you follow him and understand this 666, that the sun sits between Virgo's head and Leo, right? Like you look at Madonna's Like a Virgin video, where when she as soon as they start the video, the moon is with the twins. She walks off the boat, right? As soon as she gets off the boat, the lion comes and walks by her feet in the video Like a Virgin. All right.
Right.
So if 9/11 is so important to these people, and this specific alignment is so important that they've memorialized it in scripture and Hollywood in our minds by doing 9/11 and doing all this, and I believe serving Israel and the Greater Israel Project and all this other stuff that they're doing.
And making us call it in an emergency.
I find it very interesting, this alignment. Now, who knows what's going to happen? It's 20 some years away. Okay. But By the way, I just want you to physically see this alignment.
Okay. Yeah,
so,
I'm gonna get that app and I'll start tinkering with it. But yeah, I'm loving it.
Okay, so if you go to 9/11/2040, what do we have but Revelation scripture yet again, with the sun as her shawl, with the moon at her feet, but all of the planets are in her. Mercury, Saturn, Jupiter, Venus, and Mars.
Wow.
Together. Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. And that's just a really freaky alignment that I'm sure is possibly going to mean something. I shouldn't say sure, but it does seem like, since the movies are obsessed with it, and I mean obsessed with it, this specific alignment where all of the movie stars are representing these stars in this clock. Why 9/11? Besides, why just the Christ birth? Why just that 88? Why is it a continuous cycle? So we've already had 9/11. All right. Well, now that we had 9/11, why are they continuously staying with 9/11? Well, that's probably because 9/11 is going to be relevant again.
Well, let me interject for a second. The 9/11 in the 88 code is part of the solar or the celestial cycle.
Yeah.
It starts, it finishes, it starts, it finishes. It's the alpha, it's the omega. It's a never-ending cycle. That's why we continually see the 9/11 code. And when you're done, I've got some images and things that I want to share. And the 9/11 code is much older than most people think. I found it, by the way, and I'll share this later, an old Disney production called Donald Duck in Math Magic Land. So I've got some snapshots and some screen shares that I want to show relating to this and how they coded 88 and 9/11 in this old cartoon, Donald Duck cartoon. And then just the other day, and again, I've got screen shares I'll show later, was just recently watching the X-Men Apocalypse movie the other day, and I noticed the 88 code at the very ending and the 9/11 code and the Lucifer symbolism. But I'll turn it back to you, and I'll shut up now.
Okay, so I just want to show you this real quick from my channel of Ted Cruz asking the new United States Supreme Court Justice this question during his confirmation hearing.
So let me start with something light and a topic on which I'm familiar. What is the answer to the ultimate question of life, universe?
Turn it up if you can.
42.
42. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't know why it's not that.
Yeah, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Right. So, all right. So here's Constantine. I'm going to show you. And
what a mockery! What a joke!
Yeah. So I'm going to show you how much of. Check this crap out. Okay, so you know that the twins go down that morning following the scripture. They go down, then they build the new World Trade Center Oculus, right? The new World Trade Center. And now if you go back to, and you just Google search twin falls to her death, twin or Oculus, World Trade Center Oculus. What you get is a woman falls to her death from the Oculus escalator, February 11th, 2017.
Yeah, I remember that story.
Yeah, so here's the thing. February 11th, 2017, that's the 42nd day of the year. So understand that Jupiter was in the twins on September 11th, okay? Number 42, the alchemical symbol for Jupiter, is with the twins, and 42 falls with the twins that day. Then they rebuild the trade centers, and on the 42nd day of the year, the twin falls to her death at the new trade center, and she's 29 years old. Okay? Now, if you go to Constantine, these are just connections I'm seeing. I'm not saying that this means something.
I was going to say that in the movie Constantine, the twin falls to her death.
Right. So the whole opening of the Constantine film is that the twin falls to her death. Now, notice that I'm not going to let the sound play.
The whole movie revolves around that twin falling to her death. At the very end of the movie, Keanu Reeves sacrifices himself so that the twin can come out of, hell.
Right. So that's So Constantine, Keanu Reeves, Sirius. So I'm going to let the phone ring on here just so to grab the attention, but then I'm going to mute it and just explain.
Sure.
I don't know why my sound. Oh, wait, I do know why. Hold on. I think something.
That's okay. Take your time.
My setting hit.
Fascinating. And we have 47 people watching. So those are the degrees on the Freemason compass. Once again, we're shills confirmed.
Yes. That's us.
So we get our 911 warning with the phone call.
For whom the bell tolls.
Well, it skipped. I don't know why, but then there was a cross on the wall. And then as soon as we got the cross, we got the 911 down here. Okay. So then let me mute this.
Oh, there's the 911. Yeah, right there, right behind him. And the 76.
Yeah. Now he's on the trident or the cross now with the image behind him. And now what's going to happen is the messenger is going to fly by him. So if you understand, and I will prove to you that they use him as the constellation Sirius. I will prove it. At least as far as I can.
Take your time.
When they have him as Sirius, what you have then is the messenger. The bird will fly by with. You could have the dove as the messenger, but they're using a bird. And you have also Corvus up here.
Corvus is also known as a raven.
Right. So when the bird flies by, he's going to get a warning, and it's going to say your time is running out. And then it'll say equinox, because Sirius's time does run out at the equinox. He rules. That's why it's the dog days of summer. So he rules from August 23rd to September 23rd, the equinox. The 22nd, 23rd, it ranges. But
Canis Major?
That's Sirius. Yeah, Canis Major. So
that's where we get the word canine. Oh, cool. Okay.
Yep.
So when Canis Major, when Keanu Reeves, Sirius falls to the curb after the messenger flies by, the crab right here, Cancer above him, is going to walk over his paw. Okay. So watch. It's going to follow just like in the stars. So now here comes the bird. Notice it's the water and it's dark because he's in the water in the dark on the horizon. That's where he sits.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. So there goes the bird. Now he's going to get the sign. He's going to see it. Your time is running out, equinox.
The Chevy Equinox.
Right. Because his time does run out because he's Sirius, the dog star. And then he's going to fall to the curb. And now you're going to have the rat. And rats are known for leaving the sinking ship when it's all, see, there goes the rat. Now here comes the crab over his hand, and I'll pause it. Okay, so he put his paw down.
No, I never even noticed that. I've seen this movie a few times.
Yeah, so he puts his paw down, and then the crab walks over his paw. And so just in case people are like, what? Again, he's represents Sirius in the constellation, so he puts his paw out, and then the crab above, Cancer, walks over his paw. But do we continue in the story? Yeah, because now we're going to go through the alignment with them. They're going to do the arc. So what ends up happening is Sirius, again, see, he's down in the water line. So that's why it's all wet and dark for him. And why he can go down into the bar or into a bowling alley. Like they're going into something when they're going into the pit, the horizon line. Now watch, he's going to meet up with our Hoover Dam Transformer, Shiloh Wolf, or whatever the heck that kid's name is.
Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah. Well, he's going to run into him, and he's going to say to him, John, you're going to see Papa Midnight, right? He's for the oath the oath of neutrality, the crusader, right? No, the oath of neutrality is Libra. And when we meet him, he will be wearing the scorpion necklace.
That's right, he does.
Right. And then, but the Shiloh kid says to him, it's 2 ducks on a cloud, right? Or a bear. So when he's trying to figure out the secret code,
when the entrance into the club, the guy holds up a card.
Right. He has to have the code to get in. And so they tell different stories. Again, Hollywood takes their liberties, but they still stick with the stars. So the 2 ducks on a cloud is Cain's the 2 Cains here on the Coma Berenices, but with the bear. Okay, so even though it's the dogs, they're taking the liberty of changing the mythology. And if you actually go and watch Keanu Reeves do interviews, he will tell you it's like they're rewriting the mythology when he talks about John Wick. Okay, whoops. Sorry. All right, so going back to that, we're going to see that play out here. So there's the crab on his hand. He's going to fight the locust creature thing, right? We'll skip that.
Oh, no, I got a skin plane.
Okay, so here he's up by the 76 station, by the way. This is at the 76 station. He kicks the crab, fights the guy, the locust.
See, that's super significant. That crab going over his hand.
So now he's gonna kick the crab with an attitude. Okay, so now he's gonna go meet that kid, and then you'll see. I think I do have it. Okay, I know what you're doing, John. I know where you're going, John. I don't know why it's so big. I can't see it. Like, can we view it smaller so I can see everything on that screen? I probably can't.
Well, I'll tell you what, the lettering, if you can't shrink it down, the lettering is actually a little bit obscured by all of our icons. So just go ahead and read it out so everybody knows what's being said there.
Okay, so he's saying to him, it's a haven for those who rise and fall, right, John? Because the angels, the stars, they rise and fall. It's their continuous cycle. Okay, so then he says, you're going to go meet Papa Midnight. He swore an oath of neutrality, like he really likes Papa Midnight. So he's going to ask him, can I get in to the club with you, John? And John goes, you can get in if you can get in. So then they're going to go down into the bar and he's going to tell the code on the card and he'll get in, but he doesn't know the code. So wherever he is in the stars, okay, so right there he says, actually you can't see it, but right there at that point he had said it's 2 ducks and a bear, right, John? Okay, so he says 2 frogs on a bench. So it's 2 ducks in a cloud, 2 frogs on a bench, 2 dogs on the hair.
So reference to twins again, or what?
Well, to the Cains on Coma Berenices on the hair. And by the way, rats is stars. It's just an anagram of stars too. Rats are.
True.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, so here he goes, and now he's going to be walking past all the other stars that are hanging out with him on that horizon line. So the zombieism, the different characters that you see in movies that come from these alignments, turning the water into wine. And let me just show you that really quick. So above here, the crater, the chalice, the Holy Grail. So if we say go to 2017, we'll use a current example from the Vegas shooting, and we go to 10:1. What happens is as the sun fills the grail, it looks like the grail's being filled with the blood of the Christ. So they're filling that in there, turning the water into wine, right? Because the deluge pushes Virgo, and the wings of the bird carry her away, and the deluge pushes her, and the cup runneth over, right? Like it's all part of the stories. Okay, so all right, so now when he goes in, he's going to open the door, and you'll see Papa Midnight is sitting there, who is the oath of neutrality, Libra, Thoth, and then all of a sudden it's going to be he's wearing the scorpion necklace. Okay, and there's his scorpion necklace. So we just went through with him his introduction at the 9/11 point. That's not when he's introduced in the movie, but for this alignment that they just gave us, we start with our twins in the movie, and all of these characters, all of this stuff can be part of the movie in the background scene, the storyline, and you'll notice it because it'll feel awkward sometimes. Once you see it, you're going to be like, oh my God, there's the twins. Oh, there's the dog. Oh, there's the rabbit. Oh, there's the bear. Oh, there's the wolf.
The raven.
Scorpion. Yeah, you're going to be like, right. And you're going to see them put together in like a string of stuff, you know? So then when we get past that one, we go again to our Revelations 12 with her, because what ends up happening then afterwards is him and the twin now hook up, and they're talking about the devil, and he's trying to explain to her, you know, what if I told you that God and the devil are really having a fight over the souls of man, right? And she's like saying, that's not good, whatever, kind of, you can't blame this, that people are bad, John, people, right? That's what she tries to explain to him. So then
so she's right, because she's like atheistic at the beginning of them, I think.
Yeah, she's like, right. So she's like saying people are bad. I don't know if she really ever declares like an atheism. It's just that she is saying that the people are bad. So then the power goes out, which is another common theme in these movies, and the constant EMP scares and all this other stuff, right? With the power outage.
Mm-hmm.
And then they put her with the, okay, so there goes the power. And then they show us the Broadway sign, which there's Broadway, New York, and Broadway, LA. They're in LA at this time though. And, but notice what's right behind her when they focus on her right there. Hold on. I didn't mean to hit right there. There's Virgo with the crown of 12 stars with Mary right behind her. Right? Because we're dealing with twins, and now we got Mary.
The Virgin Mary.
Right.
The moon at her feet.
Right. So they can transition through those characters. So Charlize Theron, even though Therion, and just so people can see that, let's show them. So Therion is Greek for wild animal or beast. Therion is the name the Greeks gave to Lupus, the constellation wolf. Therion is Thelema, consort of Babylon, or the beast in Revelations, a monster from the book of Revelations. So Lupus constellation, that is the constellation right there. The wolf is Lupus. So that's Therion, Theron. So she transports through those characters, right? And if you really pay attention to the movies that her and Keanu Reeves do together, like The Devil's Advocate, and she's like, I can't look at myself in the mirror. All I see is monsters, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of, I think, how she even says it. And it's just like, once you understand that, you know, she's on the horizon with her Sirius, and she can't look in the mirror without seeing all the monsters, right? That you start to understand the story. But let's just really quick stay with Keanu, because he's so easy to pick apart. If we go to the John Wick tattoo, right? Let's see. I wish I had this somehow where I could have followed it. And by the way, the one dog that died on 9/11, what was his name?
Oh, I don't remember. I don't know.
Well, there was one dog. There was one dog. No, there was one dog that died on
Yeah, I remember that, but I don't remember the name of the dog.
Well, the dog's name happened to be Sirius.
Oh, of course.
That's right. That's right. That's right. I remember now.
You can't be serious.
Yeah. It was serious.
Are you serious?
Why did that media center open? I don't want that. Okay, so now going back to John Wick. I'm trying to find the link to his tattoo. Okay, here we go. So we open up his tattoo. All right, so here's the wolf on his back, the cross, and the flame. So I'm thinking that a future alignment has to be with the sun, all part of it. So now Finis talks about the cross in the terms of the 88 with the analema and how that's the crossover point, right?
Yes.
And I think that is one cross. That's one of the crosses. However, the other cross is the crux.
It's well,
The
there's
Southern Cross right here called crux. And it's actually,
No, well, I just want to interject that there is, yeah, you've got the Crux constellation there. I'm not sure if that's considered the Southern Cross, if that's the Southern Cross.
That's the Southern Cross.
Okay.
So the Southern Cross is, and when Sirius, see, he's on the cross. That's why they always portray him with the cross, Sirius with the cross, and the beast, the wolf, right? So you go back to that picture, and you got Sirius, Keanu, the dog star, the wolf, and the cross, right? Now, and if you think that...
hold on, and isn't Keanu's band named Dog Star?
Yes,
yeah.
So his band is also... Right, so that is, his band's name is Dog Star. So you are dealing with the dog star when you're dealing with Keanu Reeves. And that's why you're going to consistently see that even in John Wick, what happens? It's his dog got shot. What happens in the movie? He has a hard time going up and down stairs like a dog. He has a hard time getting hit by cars like a dog. It's all part of the narrative, right?
Wow.
So,
that's interesting because when I've heard a lot of people try to break down movies, like for instance, The Matrix, featuring Keanu and Keanu representing the Christ figure, because he's the one, he's the savior. So, right. I mean, have you gone through the Matrix series? I don't want to interrupt your flow, but have you gone through
because he chases the rabbit down the hole.
Oh my God. So he's Sirius again in the Matrix. Yeah. He's not the Messiah. Right. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's his thing. Again,
holy crap.
Right. So then like the thing with Jack, or here, let me show you. This was one that I was talking to Sean Stone about when we were having that conversation. So here's a picture of a scene out of the Avengers movie. And what you see here is you got Scarlett Johansson tied to the chair, right? And she's Black Widow in the Avengers movie. And she's reflected in the mirror.
Okay.
Right? And then you got the twin guns right here. And then over in the corner here, you have Mary with the baby. Right? See it down here? In the left corner? Okay. All right. So now if we go back to the star chart and we understand anything about that, the chained up, if they're introducing us to her chained up, whoops, sorry. I know I keep apologizing. I'm just, I don't know if I'm apologizing to myself or you guys.
Well, I want to apologize to people in the chat because I just can't take my eyes off of what you're showing me here. I mean, I
can't focus. And you're flowing really well.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
This is brilliant.
Okay, so check this out. This is Andromeda over in the northwest, right? So northwest here is Andromeda. Andromeda is specifically known for being chained to the rock. So the moment that you see Scarlett Johansson being introduced in the Avengers as Black Widow, chained to the chair, and you look at the scene that they put in front of you, and again, let's bring up the picture. We have the twin guns, we have the twins, and they're sitting right in the middle. And then we have over here across, we have the Virgin Mary with the baby Jesus, and on 9/11, there's our Mary directly across from her. So see, she's over here.
To the left.
Right? She's chained. And look at who sits next to her, Cassiopeia with the mirror. Right? And then you got your twins in the middle, the twin guns. And then you have Virgo with the sun over on the exact opposite side of her. And that's exactly what we have over here. We have our guns, our girl chained to the thing with the mirror. Now, here's the thing. Inside of Andromeda, in the constellation Andromeda, is a nebula named Black Widow.
No.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
Also, Scarlett Johansson, right? She's the Scarlet Woman. And also Johan is John, which is Jack. So she's also a Jack. Back to you.
Wow.
Yeah, they stay in their part of the sky, you know, and I swear it's like they have to for some reason, because the pattern.
They're bound by contract.
That's right. The stars are the firmament, right?
Right. So so imagine this, you're skull and bones. Everything's the clock, the time. You're the Freemasons. Everything you're honoring is celestial, you know, of course, the alchemical, all of that's part of it. But a big part of it is the stars and the Jacob's ladder and Zeus and Saturn and everything. And now Hollywood is, you know, let's admit who started Hollywood, who produces most of the movies, who directs and whatnot. And you understand that the Bible too is full of stories about the stars. You see that this is the actual common link between all of them. And the reason people are detecting these same things over and over again is because it's really there. And they're not crazy. It's just really there. But a lot of people didn't take it to the stars. They kind of just stopped with, oh, it's one-eyed symbolism. Oh, it's Lucifer. Oh, it's this. But my question became, well, wait a minute. Why? Unless you're using it as an actual code or a timekeeper, why are you sticking to it so vehemently? Right. And then when you think 9/11 and you realize that 9/11 happened at the exact time in the stars that the scripture Revelations 9:11, all of Revelations 9, that is that morning star alignment at the time that the first World Trade Center gets hit in the sky of Jerusalem, and that it matches it exactly. Well, that's a freaking code, and that's a pattern, and that's how they do their wars. And I sit there and think, well, what have we been taught? Almost all wars are won by code breakers.
We'd best get breaking the code then.
So if people realize that there's nothing for us to argue about, right? As far as this, it's like once you start to see it and you share it, those who are interested, you know, you don't want to force anybody to do anything, but those who are interested, if you have a favorite movie star that you know their movies intimately and you remember that scene, you know, or you're like, oh yeah. Okay, let me show you one other thing real quick with Puff the Magic Dragon.
Yeah. Take your time. Just keep it going. This is brilliant.
Okay. So
I think it's remarkable that the connection that you made about certain movie stars from one movie to the next, how they continue to maintain attributes.
Yeah, that is fascinating.
Yeah, and they do. And the only reason I can think of is, okay, they do give us them. Let me rephrase that.
They don't call the only reason I can stars for nothing, right?
Lots of things I can think of, but the thing is that it is obviously important as a timekeeper, because if they're portraying constantly the 9/11 narrative and the World Trade Centers and the twins and like again the dog Sirius and Stanley Kubrick is sitting there. What he was showing was not remarkable. I know that Jay Weidner says, oh, he presented the best alchemical movie. And he did. With Space Odyssey, he really did present this great piece showing this alchemical process of when there's a star alignment, then something else happens amongst human civilization, right? Now, if you think about Children of the Corn, right? Children of the Corn is specifically when he's sitting there saying, he's quoting Revelations 9 in the church, and Charlize Theron, when you meet her, is introduced to us the moment he says the beast. And lupus, just like I showed before, is the monster, the beast. Lupus of Revelations, right, is a beast. And she's presented to us immediately. That's how we're introduced to Charlize Theron, is at that time when he's quoting Revelations 12. And what happens in Children of the Corn? You have a star alignment and they have a sacrifice. So what happened on 923? We had on 923, we had a star alignment, and then we had yet another sacrifice. Now, some people say nothing happened in Vegas. However, what did happen is a bunch of people went and gave their blood that stays good for 42 days.
Yep.
Okay, so there's something to the reason that they have this, and then they do something like 9/11. I went and gave my blood. I live in the state, and we all went and gave our blood, like everybody who could did. I mean, I didn't get out of the blood drive place over around the corner. I didn't get out of there till 11 at night, and but we didn't know. You know, we're just like, oh my God, this is crazy. People are going to need our blood. You know, and I didn't know the magnitude of anything. I didn't understand any of the crap that was going on, really, you know. And so anyways, what was I gonna go to? There was something. Oh, Puff the Magic Dragon. Okay. So if you go, a lot of people think Puff the Magic Dragon's about cannabis, and it's not. And if you go and read what the guy who wrote it explains, he says those who look at Puff the Magic Dragon as a cannabis thing have not done their research. Now I did send a message to his keeper, whatever they are, their publicists. I didn't get a response back, but I said, this is the story of the stars, and let me show you. So Puff the Magic Dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. So right away we're given a time that it's in the autumn. Little Jackie Paper. So now we're dealing with paper. Yeah. Right. Little Jackie Paper, though. So now if you know about the stars and the kite strings and paper and stuff like that, you know that you're dealing with Bootes, because he looks like a kite. All right. So let's just do that real quick.
Bootes.
Yeah. So let's just go to that real quick, because it told us to go to the autumn. So let's go to the first day of autumn.
So let me ask you, before you do, or as you do, this app that you're using, you can go into different various places on Earth for different perspectives, right?
Right. Yes.
So when you do these, you know, when you go to your app and you're checking something like, for instance, the Puff the Magic Dragon, you know, right now you're looking at the kite constellation Bootes. What perspective? How do you know which perspective? Do you always start at Jerusalem?
Well, if it's a major event like 9/11, yes, only because that's scripture. And because that's scripture, and we know that the Hebrews are the big part of that scripture, then
so for something like Puff the Magic Dragon, would you typically
then I'm just going by the song itself for the most part. However, I will explain right, and I will explain why the location is important. And this is a perfect song for that, actually, a perfect thing for that. So don't let me forget. Okay. So Puff the Magic Dragon lived by the sea. He frolicked in the autumn. So we're in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. If you happen to look up Honolulu, there's a Honolulu, Hawaii, and it's in North Hawaii. So we're in the north. Little Jackie Paper, right, with his kite strings and his wax and everything. He loved that rascal Puff, right? So let's go back to our lyrics real quick. They lived by the sea, frolicked in the autumn. Okay, so together they would travel on a boat with billowed sail. So let's close this. And let's go and put our sky normal like this. And we're going to put him up in the north. We didn't move anything. We're staying with him up in the north right now. So Draco's now way up here in the north with Jackie Paper. And look at what they happen to be riding down in the south. The boat with the billowed sail. You see it down here?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So the dragon and Jackie are up here in the north, and they're riding the boat in the south. So what happens is, as they ride their adventure together over the course of the day, they're going to be on the boat, but then the boat's going to disappear. And then the dragon, Puff, he's going to get sad because dragons live forever, but not so little boys, right? Because little boys, he goes away. Jackie, over the course of the day, he does go down into the abyss. Whoops, we went too far there. He goes down into the abyss, Boots. And when he goes down into the abyss, Draco, Puff, right? He watches them, but he lives forever. Draco lives forever. But Draco only lives forever in North America, up here.
Okay.
He doesn't live. His head goes into the cave. So as the day goes on and he buries his head into the cave, in our country, he doesn't bury his head in the cave, but in Jerusalem, he does.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'll show you.
You know, when you said Draco, the first thing that came to my mind was Draco Malfoy. Have you done the Harry Potter series?
No, but that is all totally Sirius Black. Yeah, because they're all
Sirius Black. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So going back to our Draco in Jerusalem.
We got Gryffindor, the Griffin.
Yeah. So see, in Jerusalem, Draco's head goes into the cave. So dragons live forever, but not so little boys. So Jackie Paper came no more, and Puff the Mighty Dragon ceased his fearless roar. His head was bent in sorrow. Green scales fell like rain, meteors from his showers, right? Because you have the draconoids. Puff no longer went to play along the cherry lane. Without his lifelong friend, Puff could not be brave. So Puff, that mighty dragon, sadly slipped into his cave.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but know that that's the story that they're following along with, and that these characters are up in the stars unless you look to the stars. And a lot of people don't know to look in the stars, and yet nonstop everything's told you to look into the stars, right? So I think they're almost assuming that we are, like, I think they're probably shocked that we aren't, to be honest, you know, because the scripture tells you the stars are for signs and seasons. Then you read Revelations 9, you read Revelations 10, you read Revelation 12, and you constantly get in the story of the stars. It's the same with Noah's Ark, right? You're dealing with the ark on the deluge, the flood of the Milky Way. And when Noah sends forth his dove, Columba, the dove, and he sends forth his raven to and fro, and his 3 sons clothe their father, it all starts to make sense. When you've got Adam and Eve and the snake in the garden, when you have the one who stands on the cloud on the rainbow with the open book and the open scroll, and when you have in the movies where it's constantly about the stars in the background. So it doesn't matter what the story is, in the background you will see the references.
Let me interject real quick. You mentioned the Adam and Eve, and earlier you had questioned about Phineas. Well, God, I have such a hard time remembering that channel name.
88 Finis Temporis. Yeah.
Finis Temporis.
Yeah.
About the connection to the atom, the nuclear bomb, the atomic bombs.
Right.
When you mention Adam and Eve, something that I've been aware of for a long time is that the ancient Egyptians had a saying that all is atum, A-T-U-M, atum.
Right.
All is atum. So if you consider in the material world that everything is made of atoms, in the beginning of the Genesis, we have Adam and Eve, the very first.
Right.
So I wonder if there's the reference to the atom or the atomic connection. So there you go. I didn't mean to interrupt your flow.
Oh, no worries. I'm just yeah, I can't recommend 88 Finis Temporis enough.
I'll put his link in the description.
Yeah, because he's really seeing that 911-88666 code. And the reason that I know he's right is because when I go to the star chart and I look at, like I was showing on the 911, let's do Madonna really quick when we're doing this, because then just to show that. So we do the 911. See, the sun is between Leo and Virgo, between her head and stuff. That's part of that space on 911. It's going to be in the same place on 911 again. Of course, it typically is there at 911. But the next major huge 911 that aligns with Revelations is 2040, as far as all the planets now are with her, the sun's above her head, the moon at her feet on 911. When people say, well, what do you mean by that? I try to just show them really quick this image, just to kind of give them a scope of how important it is to their imagery. Okay, so here's the Cologne Cathedral, and this was built in the 1200s. Whoops, I didn't mean to hit save. I meant to click on the image. We don't want to do it that way. Let's do.
Good job, Bart. I was working on that.
Let me just make it bigger. Okay, so you see Mary. So this is again in the 1200s. So here's Mary, and she's standing. Oh my goodness, we didn't mean to do that. All right, we'll take that image. Thank you. So she's standing on the moon, right? And she's got the serpent tail around her. There's the serpent's head down there.
She's always standing on the moon. I've been to the Vatican.
Exactly. And she's got the sun is her shawl, right? And the serpent with the moon. So it's not just the moon, it's the moon with the serpent. So if we go to the one that's always being portrayed in the movies and in the churches and stuff, Our Lady of Guadalupe and stuff, is Virgo with the moon at her feet, and the serpent is right here with her. You know, they're all hanging out together. And then when you go to the scripture of, say, Revelations 12, so let's just do that really quick. I just want to show you. I know a lot of people talked about that part of it, the woman in heaven clothed with the sun with the moon at her feet. But here's the thing: if you scroll down, you know you're staying in the stars the whole time, because okay, so it says, and to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, and where she is nourished for a time and time and a half from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood, and after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away by the flood. So here's what we got going on. We have our water, our Milky Way, and on her back. So see on her back, Corvus, the wings on her back. And then what ends up happening is, as the day goes on, that flood, the Milky Way here, right, starts, and the wings of the bird are carrying her away into the wilderness. And that's what it is. And so when people are arguing scripture and prophecy and all this other stuff, I'm like, why are we arguing that? It's a story of the stars.
Yeah.
Now, when the sorcerers use that story of the stars to carry out an event like 9/11, and the sorcerers endlessly put it in the movies for years and years and years, and we're talking decades of this honoring 9/11 and knowing that they, I believe, built the Twin Towers to specifically be taken down for this event.
Oh, they did.
I'm certain of it too.
I can actually prove that.
Yeah, everything points to that as true. My real concern is, why are they still staying with 9/11 if they've already done this so-called major 9/11, unless they're planning on another huge 9/11 in the future? Right? Because it doesn't make any sense. But one thing for sure
I'm
is,
sure. Yeah,
they definitely gave us this. They programmed it into our mind. Then they did the event.
Yep.
And then the reason I get tired myself, at least, of arguing over the Christ figure, the atheism, the religious part, and all that, is that they're all talking about stars. I'm not saying that we're not talking at the same time that there's a God and a creator, and I'm not denying any of that, because I do believe there's a creator. So I'm not trying to diminish any of that. I'm trying to say that the constellations and the stories of the stars, though, what they're doing through the religion and through the movies and stuff like that, is they're actually, I believe, taking us away from a better knowingness by keeping us ensnared in their timekeeper of the universe, right? So we're ensnared in their story of the stars, and we're arguing it, and the whole time they're using it as their code. And we're just arguing it. And yet the whole time they're doing events and carrying stuff out and programming us through this code. And that's why people are seeing things over and over again. They just got to go to that next step and realize that they're actually all talking about the same thing. And then maybe we could actually, I'm not saying, it's not like there's going to be some miraculous thing where all of a sudden they're going to go slap the handcuffs on Dick Cheney or Bush family or something. But if we can show, if you're into it, I'm not saying, everybody go out and do this or anything. I'm saying, but if you're into this and into that understanding and it's resonating, and you find out that pattern is there, that it's always the dog, the twins, the virgin, the wolf, the vampire, and the serpent. Right. And then even in the Marvel comics with the cube and the rod, with Boots' spear of destiny, and like that, it's all the same thing. And then you're sitting with your loved ones and you're like, why are we arguing about that? And you're like, what do you mean? Well, we're arguing about stars, And then they're like, no, it's not. You're like, well, here, let me prove it to you. Let me show you that that's what you're actually talking about. And I'll show you the consistent pattern over and over again. Then maybe we can get past that argument. And then that just kind of takes that little bit of power away from them, because now they don't have that. And I don't think they'll appreciate it. I think they enjoy that power. But let me tell you what's interesting about the Sean Stone part of it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Sean Stone. You said did you meet him, or you had some conversations with him?
Yeah. So what had happened was I was following the synchromysticism stuff, and I was seeing that this was a pattern, and that the movie stars were indeed linked to the stars. And yeah, another one was Leonardo DiCaprio, because every single time Leonardo DiCaprio is in a movie, it's always with the water. So the Titanic, the Wolf of Wall Street, where the boat gets destroyed and everything changes in his life because of the water with the boat. The Great Gatsby, he gets shot with the gun and he falls, in the Christ-like figure in the water. Beaches, and I mean, just name it. It's always water with him, because he's Scorpio, right? And he sits in the heart of the Milky Way, the heart of the flood, right? So that's why he's always the water for him. Anyways, I shouldn't have went there, because now I forgot what I was saying about before I said him. What was I talking about before that? I can't remember.
You know what? I stopped your chat for a second, so I'm of no use for you.
Let me see if I can trigger it by looking at the.
I will ask a question though. Johnny Supertramp in the chat asked a little while ago, and I don't know which one he's referring to, but he asked, "What mural is that?" So, what mural is this from? And I don't remember what you were showing when he asked that. That was a few minutes ago. So sorry, Johnny, I didn't get to that question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't see anything because I'm not seeing the chat. Well, okay. So what happened with Sean Stone was I was watching the synchromysticism videos, and I was seeing the pattern that the synchromysticism community was detecting. And I wanted to see if their patterns were legit. Like, were they legitly seeing a pattern, or were they making stuff to fit? And when I started looking, I'm like, well, wait a minute, that movie star actually really fits that pattern over and over and over and over again. And then it got to a point where one time we were even watching a movie, and we were only typing in chat a long time ago, and we were watching Nonstop or something with Liam whatever the guy. Yeah, the one from all the Taken movies. Yeah. So anyways, he gets on the plane, and before he even says it, I type it in the thing because I seen him approaching the row 4, and I said he's going to sit in 4B. And then he goes, "Oh, that's my seat right there, 4B." And the reason I know is he's 42. He represents Zeus. So I already knew what seat he was going to sit in. And that's the thing. Once you get familiar with the characters, you're going to know when you're dealing with John Kerry, for example, that you're dealing with 23, Sirius, like Truman Show, Sirius falls from the sky, right? And it lands right in front of him. The name on the light was actually Sirius, the big light that fell down. And he has the production company 23, and he did the movie, the number 23. And 23 is linked to the dog star because he rules from the 23rd to the 23rd, right? From August 23rd to September 23rd. Yes, right. So we're talking about the planets in their numbers terms too. And that's why Finis Temporis is picking up on the 88, the 666. He knows exactly where the sun's supposed to be, where this is supposed to be, because that's part of the code. So one day, a couple of years ago, I was watching Lip TV and Sean Stone. I think it was on Lip, and he goes, "It seems like all the movies are alchemical in nature and they're on a continuous loop." And so I Twittered him and I said, yeah, it's Jupiter and everything. Now, of course, in my mind, being the conspiracy type person that I am, I'm thinking, well, his dad is Jewish. He's a producer, right? He's a director. I mean, Sean Stone was Jewish till he converted over to Islam. So he's got to know. But
wait. Sean Stone converted to Islam?
Yeah. So
does that even make sense?
No, I don't know. I'm like, but the thing is he did. So in my mind, I'm like, all right, here's the first person that I've seen tell any truth to this, that has actually even mentioned this. I'm going to reach out to him because I really, something inside of me, you know, I don't know what to call it, but I call it an inner voice and knowingness or whatever, said, reach out to him because you need to get to see what he says. So I did, and he actually replied back. And so anyways, he gave me his phone number. We first tried to talk online where I could share my screen, but for some reason, Skype kept cutting off everything I was trying to show him, and I couldn't show him.
So you were on the phone with Sean Stone?
Yeah, so we talked for about an hour and a half about all of this stuff, you know. And he said, he goes, "No, you're right." He goes, "That's exactly what is going on." But then he said, "But do you think that there's a real hidden hand? Do you think," he said, "it looks like there's a real battle going on in the bloodlines, but I don't know any of that. I don't know what is really going on behind the scenes. All I know is this is the pattern. This is what happened on 9/11. That's exactly what the scripture said. It's the same part of Israel, Hebrew, Jews. It's all part of the same cabal of people from time immemorial, drawing on the knowledge of the stars throughout the films, throughout music, throughout everything. And that's how we're entranced into it, I believe. So is it okay if I just play you what he talks about in this one video?
Yeah, take your time to show us whatever you have. Absolutely. Okay. But you know what? Hold that thought for 2 seconds. And let me just ask a question before it gets to be too long. One of my subscribers, Lady Zaga, asked about the 13th zodiac. Anything?
Okay,
do you have anything like that?
Yeah, so they tried to start with Ophiuchus, right? However, you guys,
Ophiuchus.
I'm going to call him O. I'm going to call him O because I always mess it up. I've been saying it for 2 years and I still mess it up. My brain doesn't go with that for some reason. It's so full of other stuff, or I don't know. But anyways, the big O. They tried to say that's the 13th, but really the thing is that the sun is still only staying with, let me just show you real quick, but the sun is really just staying within Scorpio, Libra. So, which is around December.
I actually have an interesting take on the 13 Ophiuchus thing. I'm sort of waiting for a natural gap, and then
You have to jump in on this one, buddy. Just to speak up.
I know. I'm very patient, and Influence is doing such a good job. So yeah, but I figured I would just mention it and let you know that I'm going to be jumping in with something for about 10 minutes here pretty soon. Okay.
Okay. So the sun though still. Here's the thing. We have a calendar of 12 months. We don't have a calendar of 13 months. Now, maybe that might be something in the future. I don't know. Or maybe there's some big shift that happens. I have no idea. And there has been shifts according to, at least if you look at the star chart and you try to go back in time, if they're right and how they got these alignments on here, Sirius disappears literally from the sky, as does big part of Orion. Disappears, it looks like, for almost 8,000 years and then comes back. So however everything flows, it seems that Sirius, the black star, the dark one, has actually went dark to them because it disappeared from Purview. Now that's over a course of time, so I don't know how memorialized that is in the ancient ancestors, but then it comes back. It is reborn 8,000 some years later. Now that's only if they have this star chart right going that far back. They might not, and it could be totally out of whack, but that's just what I had observed in one of the things. But really quick on the Sean Stone thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so he's explaining the Beauty and the Beast, the three, and he'll talk about Columba and the bird, because he's divulging that this is the reality of the movies. And I don't know if he's supposed to, but my conspiracy mind was thinking, is he supposed to let us know that? And then is there somebody like me or others that then pick up on that? But I reached out to him because I believe that if you have a question of a certain group of people, you should freaking ask them.
So is this your conversation with him, or is this just a video?
No, this is just a video of him. I would never tape a private conversation like that without permission, ever.
Okay.
It's anyone who's been watching films for the past month has to notice a certain pattern that's being shown to us. It begins with Logan, the Beastman, in front of the rising sun, or maybe the setting sun, indicative of the fact that that's the end of his character, who you could argue is actually named for the Logos. And many would say actually that is the Logos was actually the Christ figure in biblical text. And so the Logos came to its end with Logan, where he was crucified on a tree, which is precisely the Christ mythology. Then what is the message we're being told? Basically, it's the end of one generation of mutant, let's say cyborg, where this is a man with the robotic skeletal structure coming to an end. Basically, in the course of that story, he has to confront his double, who is essentially the Lucifer figure. Some are familiar with this idea that Christ and Lucifer were actually twins. And so essentially there's the light and the dark confronting each other there. So
I'm seeing a lot of that too.
Logan's story, obviously, Logan is crucified and meets his end to give birth to the next generation of mutants. What do we have following it? We have another Beastman story. And this is another Beastman Christ, because this is actually Kong, which came out basically a week before Beauty and the Beast. So this notion of the Beastman coming in March with Kong. If you saw the poster, it was Kong in front of the rising sun, very Christ-like on the mountain of skulls, or the island of skulls, which is the Mount of Skulls where Christ was sacrificed, Golgotha. So Kong is the Christ figure. He's actually protecting mankind against the devils from below, the serpent figures, the true forces, but he's misunderstood. And of course, he is sacrificed and essentially resurrected. Kong is in the course of that story. But how do we know he's a Christ figure? Well, aside from the Illuminati symbolism of the poster, which is him in front of the rising sun, and the one eye that's covered by a helicopter, so indicating that there is this one-eyed motif, very Illuminati-esque. We know at the very end of the Kong story that he's on the island of skulls, and 3 helicopters appear in the sky. Well,
Orion's belt.
what does that indicate? That's the story of the 3 magi, the 3 wise men appearing.
3 blind mice.
To
Noah's 3 sons.
Be born. So very symbolic. All these choices, right? The same with Columbus. Even Columbus's name, as we know, historically was actually Colon. Why was he called Columbus? Well, Columbus is Colomb, like the dove. And
Columba, the
what
dove.
is the dove except the expression of the Christ figure and the fact that he has these 3 ships that he brings westward, like the 3 magi in search of the new child, the new world, America. It's all very interesting symbolism here. So from the Kong Beast Man, we then have Beauty and the Beast opening the week after that. And again, we have now the dying Beast Man, who is, again, the Christ figure, dying to be reborn. But in this case, he's reborn as a prince. So that is basically the divine resurrection in that story. Whereas with the Logan story, we had the death of the Beast Man to give birth to the new generation. In the Kong story, we basically had the anointment of the Beast Man as Christ. And in the Beauty and the Beast story, we have the actual transformation, the metamorphosis of the Beast Man into the new king, the new prince of the new world.
Cool.
And on top of that, we had a 4th story that occurred, not overtly Beast Man oriented, but I think almost more indicative of where they're taking this. And that story was Ghost in the Shell. Very obvious Illuminati motif with the triangle and the title, Ghost in the Shell. The notion of shells is a Kabbalistic term of basically the vessels or the bodies that are incarnate here on the earth that basically are just cast off husks. They don't have character until they're animated by the spirit, and that's where is the ghost. So the ghost in the shell is essentially programmatic, perhaps, of our future, a very dark prognostication, if you ask me, but essentially the notion being that those who are wealthy enough will be able to afford buying new bodies and building new bodies step by step, so we'll become less and less human and more cybernetic. So in the course of this story, of course, is the Scarlett Johansson character, who is a human mind within a complete cyborg body. Basically, the end conclusion of what the Logan character was, and she is called Beauty, in contrast to the Beast, who is her lover, the Michael Pitt character. Pitt being the beast from the pit. Obviously, it's interesting symbolism.
So
there.
Lupus in the pit, and she's sitting across from Lupus in the pit, right? Her Scarlett Johansson character, who's always chained, or she's chained to the chair. She's looking in the mirror, and she's across from Logan, right? Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
She's across from him. They're exactly across from each other in the sky at a certain point in the day. And if you know that they're across from each other at a certain point in the day, then to me, that's how you can communicate an exact time, an exact season. So if you keep showing people within the circles, and they're looking at the movies and they're all congratulating each other, having their awards, they know what they're talking about, a lot of them. So you're like, well, this is going to happen at this time in the fall, blah, blah, blah. Don't be there. You know, people know, and they're not.
He is the Beast character that is the deformed version of the cyborg, and she is the perfected form of the cyborg, again, with the human mind that is able to compel the body to move in the proper direction of evolution, which is to say they believe we will all become cybernetic, those of us who can afford it. And I think that's the danger of what we're facing at this moment. This resurrection of humanity, as they're saying, will be the next generation, the next race, will be those who can basically afford to upgrade, who can afford technological upgrades necessary to survive in perhaps a more devastated environmental situation, economic disparity, or obviously we're on a precipice of the unknown. We don't know how dark things will get, but these are glimpses of potential futures for us. So I think it's important we just become aware and take note, not to say it's doomed or that we have no choice.
But anyways, okay, so the thing is that he's explaining the narrative. He's explaining the lupus, the Wolverine, the Scarlett Johansson, who sits again across from the Wolverine, lupus, and he believes that you're dealing with certain elements and like these forces are, fighting. And a lot of people do believe that. I do believe that there's this good and this evil and this dark and light and everything. And I believe in a creator. But my question really, what I was kind of hoping to try to pull out of him, if we could have talked maybe even longer, was, is it really that, or is it that these people are using their own tech? Like when you do 9/11, that dark force was them. They did 9/11. Right. So what dark force are we talking about? That they were inspired by a dark energy? Because I can't hold dark energy responsible, but I sure as heck can hold Steven Spielberg in my mind responsible for knowing that something was going to happen on 9/11 and portraying it in the films and giving the warnings and all that. So if I'm running into Steven Spielberg, I want to ask him the question, what the fuck was that about, man?
Yeah. No,
Yeah, really.
I don't want to sit there and say, hey, the dark force, you know what I mean? And so I appreciate that people go to that other level, because I'm very esoteric. I love talking about everything. What if under the sun? You can ask anybody who I talk about what if all the time. I think I'm like the wish girl, or so I wish this, I wish that, I wonder about this. It's just nonstop. But the thing is when it comes to actual provable stuff, we can prove over and over and over and over again that the pattern exists. We can prove that they're following the stars. We can prove that the scripture follows the stars. We can prove that 9/11 followed the stars. That kind of stuff we can prove. And again, they're not going to go and arrest these people. But if we can just share that with each other, and in our hearts and minds start to go understand just how deep that rabbit hole really goes, and then even how simplistic it actually is.
Yes.
No doubt.
It's not as difficult as if you have this whole alignment already drawn out for you throughout time and memoriam, the 88 constellations, 44 of which we already knew, that have permeated all cultures and all time, and we're all talking the same thing. And then you're a secret society, and you got to do events, and you got dates, and you got plans. What other clock are you going to use?
Yep. Well, let's come back to that. Let's take a little break here, and then we'll come back to this idea of good and evil, where attention goes, energy flows. Let's take a short break. I want to switch screen share. So if you don't mind, unscreen share for me so I can have the screen for just a minute. We'll take a short break, and everybody go get a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, or have a masturbation break, or whatever you think you need to do. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play for you a cat video like you've never seen.
How do I hit stop?
Am I sharing right now? Everybody got me yet?
Did you hit stop for me? Okay, good.
Yeah, I should be. There we go. Okay, this is Gary Orsum channel. 63,000 subscribers. This is a really interesting guy from Australia. He does some really cool videos, some great social commentary. He's wide awake. But anyway, this is a cat video like you've never seen. It's funny, it's interesting, it's relevant, it has to do with censorship. 4 minutes. Let's take a break for 4 minutes, and we'll be right back.
I should only make videos about fluffy kittens. Censorship wonderful. Magical cupcakes or police. One dream of saying anything offensive. No. Fluffy little kittens and maybe some puppies too. Who knows? Fluffy kittens. Fluffy kittens in the night. Fluffy kittens in a vicious cat fight. What if Fluffy kitten had a sharp knife? Fluffy kitten was evil all the time. I should only make videos stars above, happy sunshine. Isn't nature wonderful? Unless it challenges your beliefs, we can always find a safe space to play with Play-Doh. Yo, yo. Happy, happy sunshine, happy smiles all the time.
Happy sunshine. Happy, happy sunshine. Happy, happy on the mother sunny time. Happy, happy with the other happy smile. Happy, happy and so happy it's a crime. I really love my mom. I'll always sing about strawberry rainbows. What have you got planned for me? You wouldn't want me to say what I'm thinking.
I should only make videos about that you cleaners. Then my videos would really suck. At least they would be safe for the kids. Kids out anyone who behaves like a snowflake. I'll make those videos and nothing that's how to run. To avoid getting strikes.
So there you go. How do you like that for a palate cleanser, everybody? Uh-oh, let me shut that off. Stop already. Okay. Well, there you go. There's our palate cleanser.
Nice.
All right. Back to the concept of good and evil. And maybe before we go there, I want to give Bart the floor. I think he's got something that he wants to discuss for a few minutes. I hope you remember what you wanted to bring up, Bart.
Not a clue. No. I got this. Okay. I'm going to do my desktop.
You want to share? Okay.
Sharing it. And so a couple years back there, I don't know if y'all have looked around in terms of like astrotheology and how it connects with Da Vinci and specifically Da Vinci's Last Supper. I had run across some videos where, some people took Da Vinci's Last Supper and they mirrored it, and they slid it, and they argued that, essentially it could be interpreted something like this, where
I think I know what you're going to show us. And let me make sure, because I'm not seeing it, if you're sharing already.
I am sharing.
It
says I'm sharing, and maybe you got to highlight me.
I had you highlighted.
Maybe. Do I need to highlight myself?
At least for me, there it is. Hang on, there it is. At least for me, you weren't sharing. But go ahead.
Okay. All right. So everybody can see that.
Yeah.
Not me. You guys got it? All right, give me 1 second. Let me just unhighlight you and redo it one more time just to make sure. There it is.
All right. It looks like it's up on. All right. I just double checked it in my other screen. Hello, hello.
Got you. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Cool. Cool. So, so I just did a sort of a simple diagram where I made some circles, and this guy could be Aries, Taurus, Gemini. So it seems to be like a path through the zodiac. It could be interpreted that way, and I found that pretty interesting. And I thought, well, what else could I potentially find? So I'm going to go to another file and zoom on this one. And where I ended up was taking the image, doubling it up without flipping it, or I also doubled it up and flipped it, and then I started sliding this thing around, and I realized, wow, I think I figured out what Da Vinci was doing. Or one of the things that he was doing, because I think that this thing is so heavily encoded, it's ridiculous. So I started looking at the figures here, and I just sort of started thinking, what if you could shift, what if you could slide this around? Would people start to line up in odd ways? And wouldn't you know it? I don't know if you can see that in the center. But this guy that's at the end of the table lines up perfectly with this guy. So anyway, I did that for a couple weeks, just sliding the thing all around, seeing how every time everything tended to line up in some interesting way, and then seeing what does that do to the overall picture. And one of these places where I landed was this idea of, like, when I was trying to figure out, when I was looking at the, the Last Supper, I was thinking, well, which one is which? Which one is John? Which one's Peter? Which one's, what was it? Thaddeus? Which one is Judas? Right? And how would you know? And then I, when I started doing this process, I was thinking, like, you know what? We don't know. And maybe this is part of like a choose your own adventure kind of thing that Da Vinci was going for. Like, anybody could be anybody else. And then I got to thinking about it a different way. And I had a moment where I'm like, wait a minute, what if you put something else in there? Let me grab a star map real quick. So I grabbed a star map and I overlaid it, and then I started sliding that thing around. And, I'm not going to go into huge amounts of detail here, but basically, here, let's try to do a zoomed in version here. Basically, it works the same way. If you take the map and you just start sliding it around, you get all of these sync ups. Like, most prominently, I would say, I think I got the backwards one here. Yeah, I didn't come prepared to show this, but I was very inspired by influences, or all of her work, actually. But yeah, so I'm going to have to do an entire video about this. But I did want to touch upon that idea of like, when you start doing this, you start lining things up. Like, so right here where my mouse is floating around, that's the Grail, right? So at the Last Supper, or I guess the Grail comes from a later story, but what happens when you slide it over and you put the Grail, somewhere on the table in some significant spot? Does it yield any information? And then the other thing I just want to touch upon briefly is when you do a certain alignment with this, the central figure, the Jesus Christ character, actually lines up with Ophiuchus. So him being the 13th person at the table, also corresponding to Ophiuchus. Oh, in fact, this is actually the way to do it, where the curve actually follow, like, see how it starts up here, goes over their heads, follows down here through his arm, down here. Ophiuchus is in Jesus, the hidden, the 13th, the sacred or the secret constellation. You know, you come back up here, here's Virgo, right? And so on and so forth. So anyway, that's just another way of doing astrotheology, and doing some overlays. And I found it a lot of fun and really rewarding and really mind-blowing to work with this, because, you know, I'm like, really? Was this guy working on this level back in the day? Yeah, I bet he was. And then, you know what? Why don't we know about this? Why has nobody ever put this together quite this way?
I think you're really onto something there, Bart. Yeah. I absolutely think you're onto something. In fact, I remember an old Santos Bonacci presentation before he went flat Earth, where he covered the Last Supper, and he discussed how every single character at that table is a representation of one of the constellations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Christ figures travels through the signs, right?
Right, because he's the sun, right? Yeah. So the sun travels through.
Yeah.
But
through the houses.
What I found really interesting is that idea of assigning characteristics, then seeing what they do as context change, and then if context changes, then you unassign certain characteristics to certain people, right? So it's kind of like, or certain elements in the image, right?
I'll tell you what.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll tell you what, Bart. Before you pursue this, and I think you're super duper onto something, and I want to say hello to Mark, by the way.
Hey, it's Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, Bart.
Mark.
Hello.
Say hello to Influence Freedom. Influence, Mark Influence.
Hey, Mark. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Influence. Nice to meet you.
Anyway, Bart, I just wanted to say, before you go deep into this particular area, go back and try to find the Santos Bonacci presentation on the Last Supper before you do, and that'll give you a clue as to how to line up that star chart. Okay.
Oh no, I know a lot of ways. Yeah, yes, I will, but also I know a lot of ways to line it up.
Okay.
And I wasn't trying to go deeper. I just kind of wanted my little, I don't know, however long that was, my 10 minutes.
Sure.
To show that, and then let's go back to the show.
Well, since Big O does open the scroll and is holding the open scroll, the open book is the one that rises again on the cloud, and they sometimes do like to describe the cloud also as a rainbow, the rainbow cloud and whatnot. It would make sense that when the sun is then in that position, which is in December, that would be part of it, because then across the sky is Aries, right? And then in the spring is when the sun is going to rise with Aries. At least it did. Now it's with Pisces, and then in the future, you know, it's going to keep progressing every 2,150 years on average. The sun then moves to the next sign.
2160.
For Easter time, right? Yeah. So yeah, that would be interesting. And I could see where the sun being in that position, it would still always be between that same area. It doesn't really add a sign, but it would add the character, the 13th character, when it's transitioning from Scorpio to Sagittarius in the legs of Ophiuchus. And then the other thing about Big O is when you're reading the scripture and they talk about the legs, the pillars, you look at his legs and you see that he's cut off at the knees, right? And they say he's got 1 foot on the land and 1 foot in the sea, because it looks like he's got 1 foot on the land and 1 foot on the sea, and he's got legs with pillars of fire. So you know then that the sun is with him at the time is the pillars of fire, right? So it looks like pillars of fire. And think about also something like even the football stuff where they're all taking a knee in the name of justice. So you've got
then Hercules above Ophiuchus also looks like he's taking a knee.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't even know that the Hercules Medusa story, all that's all up there too. Like that's all part of it, you know. That's where it's all drawn from each other, the Greeks to the Romans to the Hebrews to the Scandinavians and the Norse and Asian, that they're all talking the same language. They're just telling
because it is the language that is all above us, right?
Right. Yeah, because it's the great because it's the great timekeeper of all timekeepers.
Yeah, it even got me thinking, like, I think you said at one point, you know, we've all been told to always, you know, to look up and into the sky, right? But we've also been told to look within, right? So I think it's both things, right? It's obviously look within.
Above, so below, my brother.
Yes, there we go. And then find that you are perpetually in the middle, and everybody is perpetually in the middle, and everything is perpetually in the middle of this grand thing of that's the invisible inside and the manifest outside, and we all have to sort of move through it and deal with it, and gosh darn if it isn't interesting.
Very well said, Bart. Mark, what do you think, brother?
I'm just sitting back here. I'm paying attention. I'm April 30th. I'm a Taurus. I'm born on the Fire Festival Beltane night. I just watched the Wicker Man this week, and I watched the original. I saw that whole ritual for the new crop coming in.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have a Wicker Man festival. We're gonna have a Wicker Man festival here on May 1st, Beltane Day, the anniversary of the Fort McMurray wildfires. And going forward, my opposite is Scorpio, who is October 30th, and we all know that that's the Devil's Night. And I did have a girl for 5 years that I was with, and she was a Scorpio, had the tail, and we were 6 months totally apart. And influence, I was looking at some of the vids when Aaron sent me the links a couple days ago. And I came over and I subbed your channel and I looked at a couple of vids, including the one about the hidden clocks inside the horoscope and the solar scope, and that's very awakening. But I'm aware of the, you know, my opposite is Scorpio, which is you know, October 30th. So anyone that's not, the world is based on numbers and the solar system, and how did they navigate? How did those pirates of the Caribbean and the headhunting, the Nordics, the Vikings, how did they operate so well? And the Spaniards, it's all based on the water, and they used the solar system and you know, the flat earthers. Where were the stars behind the Tesla car? Anyway, that's all I got right now. I'm going back into the chat.
Okay, all right, well, cool. Let me do my little spiel here. I came across a couple of things. I mentioned them earlier, and I suppose it's now. My screen share doesn't want to work. Are you serious?
Seriously?
Yeah. Hang on just a second. Let me.
Just try to hit her with a hammer.
I'm going to need a bigger hammer. Come on, baby. Come on.
One of those little squeaky hammers. You know what I mean? The little plastic one.
Are you kidding me? Really? You're not going to screen share? Come on. No, it doesn't. Son of a bitch, it doesn't want to work. I could try to leave and come back real quick. Otherwise, I could direct you. I'll tell you what, Bart or Amy, if you Google, or do the YouTube search, it's called Donald Duck in Math Magic Land.
Oh, yeah, classic.
Yeah, pull it up and share it while I'm trying to get my shit to work, because I'm clicking screen share and nothing's happening. And the hammer I have is apparently not big enough. So I don't know what else to do really. I
That's-
could, unless I leave and come back. So I don't.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, Mark.
Remember last week we were joking about you losing the show for 3 weeks in a row, and I said, you know, check out Google Chrome off of Explorer.
Yeah,
Did
I
you
know.
do that?
I haven't done that.
All right. Anyway, the chat was going crazy while I was coming on back on earlier, and it was like going 100 miles an hour. And Amy's asking, can anyone hear me? And I can't hear Amy again. So I guess the gremlins and goblins are monitoring the station.
Yeah,
The station, as
know.
in the space station. Ground control to Major Tom. Out.
Amy, are you with us? Can you? Is your microphone working? I haven't heard you in a long time. She said in the
She's
chat.
asking.
Yeah, she just said in the private chat that she's going to leave and come back. So she's having audio problems as well. There we go. Bart's got it. He's sharing something. What have you got there?
What you asked me to share, boss?
No, that's not what I asked for.
Yeah, Donald Duck and Math Magic Land.
Yeah.
This
Can
is
you
how
hear
it
me now?
starts. What do you want?
Yeah,
Can
you're
you
back,
hear me
Amy.
now?
Yes, I hear
Oh
you.
goodness, I was beginning to suspect something because I kept saying things and nobody was responding, and I'm going,
No, Bart.
well, this is weird.
The
Okay,
one.
continue.
No, Bart. I'm not looking.
Yeah. Look, here he is. He's here.
Okay.
Explaining the phi ratio. It's a long movie. I don't know.
No, all right. Go on. Do it again. Do a YouTube search and grab the one that's about 27 minutes long.
Okay, I can do that one.
Because it skips all this stuff and it goes right into the cartoon. And then as soon as you get past the opening credits, I want you to pause. There you go. That's it. Now skip about, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes where the video actually starts. Skip past the credits about a minute or two. As soon as you back up a little bit, another minute, a little 30 seconds. There you go. There you go.
It starts at 42.
All right.
42 seconds.
Oh, really?
Just saying.
All right, check it out. Watch this. Watch this. Any second now. This is like the opening scene now. Right there. Pause right there.
Yeah,
Here we have Donald Duck walking through the 8. And the 8 is casting a shadow. So there's your 88 code right there. And if you look behind, just above Donald Duck's head, behind the 8 is a 4.
Yeah.
And up in the upper left-hand corner is a gigantic 4.
Yeah.
So there's another 8. So there's a definite 88 code going on there.
5 and 3 is 8.
And then if you look to the right of the screen, there's a 5 and a 3, which is an 8. And on top of that, there's a 3, 3, 3.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
And in the foreground, on the left is a 7.
7.
And next to a 1, so 7 and 1. That's also 8.
All right, go ahead and play it for a minute.
Okay.
There's 72.
42. 42 flanking the 7. And there's this guy.
Trust me, I'm not going to make you watch much of this. It's only the first minute or two of this entire.
Aaron.
Yeah, Mark.
Aaron.
Right there. Pause it.
The
Bart.
numbers
Pause
that
it,
just
pause
went.
it, Bart. Pause it.
Got it. Paused it.
Go ahead, Mark.
Look at the
numbers that
920.
just went. The numbers that just went by, were they not 8372 there?
8372. I don't know.
I'm sure
they were.
I think there's.
Wait. Before you do anything,
Bart.
Bart.
Yeah.
On the very right side of the screen, you see what look like 2 atomic symbols.
Yeah.
Count how many arms. There's 8 of each of those. So there's another 88 right there. Go ahead.
Rings. Yeah.
In the 9, up in the 9 up there in the corner, how they cut the number off so it actually looks like a 923 instead of a 9 something else. See the 2? It's not really a 2. It's not really a 2, but they make it look like a 2, 923 in the corner there.
I got a whole thing. I'm going to have to do this at some point. I got a whole spiel about why numbers are shaped the way they are. I think you'll find it interesting. Stay tuned for that in an upcoming episode.
All right. Did you want to back up a second because Mark was asking about those numbers?
Yeah, I just saw 8372. I think. Pretty sure.
And I was going to say I'm pretty sure you would have, right?
Yeah.
There was the
Because it's randomized
42.
numbers, so you're going to see all kinds of combinations.
It keeps dropping 42 together.
Oh no!
Pause
the
right
numbers were
there.
high. They're
Pause.
by themselves. I can't see it. I'm not in the chat room. I'm on.
Back it up.
There it is. Where was it?
Back it up like 1 or 2 seconds, Bart.
Is it in this scene or back more?
The next
Yeah,
scene.
yeah. Keep going
Hang
back.
Hang on.
I see 879.
The very next scene.
I see an 8-3 coming
Pause
up
right
now.
there. Right there. 4, 5, and 8, 3. 9/11, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
It's
saw
almost as if
Aaron,
numbers were magical. Okay, back to you.
and I saw the 8372, which equals 19, which is the reverse 91, and the 19 now. I'm totally with my video that's out tonight. I'm relating 19 now to total pedophilia. That's it. 19 is the new pedophilia.
Don't stop, Bart.
No,
Bart, don't.
Yeah. Please don't, because that's my birthday, man.
Don't stop, Bart. Go back to full
Sorry.
screen.
Do you notice in the waterfall when the water was falling with the numbers, it was 42, 42, and 76, 42.
Wow, really? I didn't see that one.
Oh, I think we could do this all night, yo. Who's up for?
Hang on. Just let this play. Let this play. I want to show you something else. So there's your 9/11 code. And I think it's interesting that the trees have square roots. I thought that was an interesting, funny.
Square roots.
Yeah, you get it, Amy.
Yes.
Just let this play for a second. One more scene.
5, 3, 5, 8, 9, 7, 4, 7, etc., etc., etc.
There's your platonic solids.
Hello, Donald. That's me. Where am I? At the Magic Land. That's Magic Land? It's the land of great adventure. Who are you? I'm a spirit, the true spirit of adventure.
One more scene right there. Stop.
Ah, jeez. Okay.
Wait. Okay, go ahead. Right there.
There.
Okay, look at the triangles at the bottom of the screen. Triangles within triangles. We all know what that is, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and and then I see that. And I also see the spiral, the time spiral spin on the leaves.
And there's the Star of Ishtar at the top of that plant.
And the crosses hanging from the tree.
That's right.
Or pluses.
Or pluses, yeah. Crosses.
Actually, they're not pluses. If you look, one arm is longer than the other.
And some of them, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I think it ties in with mathematics. I'm not saying they're not crosses. Pluses are
What's
crosses.
the number under the 6? What's the number under the 6? There was a number before and it got blurred. Is it a
1?
Yeah.
It's a 1, a 6, a 2, a 3, 4, 8, and 5. So
Okay.
7 is missing.
Go to one more.
And the 9.
Let it play to the very next scene.
29.
Right there. Stop.
And you got your lightning bolt.
Lightning bolt. Bang.
Yeah.
Got it.
Right there, all together. Yeah, and that's the thing is you will notice that the scene will flow like that, where you got that all the characters there in a flow. You know, it's just like The Shining when you start with the twins, and then you got Danny with the 42, and he's on the bear, and then you got the wolf with Jack Nicholson. Huff and puff. The scenes will flow together like that because that's exactly it. And the lightning bolt, the 2 8s, the 911. Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. And that's how you know. That's how you know for a fact that pattern is there, because that kind of stuff isn't, you can't pick that out where it's constantly flowing in the movies over and over again. You can't just pick that out over and over again. That if you're forcing something to fit, if you're trying to force something to fit, it won't actually be a pattern.
Right.
Right.
It'll be forced. When it's natural, it's just there. You can't even argue. It's just always there. You know?
Yep.
It'll follow you around.
All right, Bart, my screen share seems to be working. I'm going to take over for a second.
Yeah.
And I just want to show one or two more pictures, and then we'll move forward. And let me see. I should be sharing. Yes.
Bart,
Yes.
Bart, you did a great job there, Bart. Awesome job, Bart.
Yeah. That was really good stuff, dude. I think you're onto something. And I'll help you.
Oh, I thought you.
No, I mean about the.
Amy.
Right. Yeah.
I
Right.
didn't know you were
Yes.
being
Amy,
smart.
Bart's
Yes.
gonna get Bart's looking for that promotion. Bart's gonna get the promotion.
I better watch out. Huh?
Keep the hackers away from your microphone, girl.
Yeah, I think, huh?
Yeah.
But what I really want to do is direct.
Yeah, you're the Judy McCoy cruise director. Yeah, the Love Boat.
Okay, so this is the very ending scene at X-Men Apocalypse. Okay, so you see how the door is shaped. Okay, it's the floor cuts the circle very low to the ground, so you get most of the arch. Okay, and if you look, not only do we have the crux or the cross, because it's obviously X-Men, but they're standing inside of this double door, and there's a shiny floor with a reflection. You see the 8 under him, right?
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Now watch. Let me jump over to this next picture. It's much more clear. Look at that right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So this scene comes right after Scorpio, Judah. Oh, you know what? Let me just show you this real quick while I'm thinking about it. I wonder if it'll open. Come on, baby.
While you're trying to open that, I just want to say if people think about the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, at the Circle K, when he's wearing his, he's got his jacket with this serious clown face, the smiley face. I mean, why so serious? Circle K, circle is 360, and K is the 11th letter of the alphabet. So you got 9/11, 3 and 6, and then 11.
Aha.
Nice. Nice coding.
Yeah, because he's the 9/11 code too. They always put him with it.
I recently played with a virtual reality app.
I lost everybody's audio. Am I still online? Am I live?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I
All
can
right.
hear you. I was
sorry.
watching you.
Yeah,
Going,
okay.
where are we going with this?
All right, sorry. Everybody went silent. I thought I got kicked off my own thing like I had before. So while I'm typing this in, I'm typing in Jean Grey, who is one of the main characters. She's the most powerful X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. The Phoenix.
Let me see. X-Men. While I was typing this in, I was looking this up the other day, and it occurred to me, Jean Grey reminds me of Dorian Gray, right?
Right.
Yes.
If you've ever seen like the movie League of Extraordinary Gentlemen,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
or anything like that, he makes a deal with the devil, and he lives forever as long as his painting is intact. And then I started looking at other Gray, like Gray. I'm going to make a video on this, you guys, because I dug into a rabbit hole onto the Gray. Jean Grey, Dorian Gray, Gray Stone, Gray Stoke, the Legend of Tarzan. Oh,
Right.
I think I even have. What did I do with those?
Yeah. And
what did I?
And Dracula.
Did I put them in here? What did I do with my? Oh, wait a minute. I think I know where they are. Here we go. 50 Shades of Lucifer. This is my folder that I've been collecting data on. Check this out. This guy here, Jaqen from Game of Thrones. This is the guy who talks about the many-faced God, otherwise known as Satan, Lucifer, the many-faced God. His name is Jaqen, as in Jaqen and Boaz.
Right.
Check this out. This is Greystoke. Here's Greystoke, an image, a screen capture of Tarzan. Here's the Garden of Eden image right here, right? Okay. So check this out. Here's Greystoke. Here's another image with him and the monkeys. Look at him. He's the Christ figure.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I've got this whole rabbit hole I've been digging into on the Grey, Greystoke, Game of Thrones, on and on. I'm going to have to make a video on this.
Aaron, Grey State.
Oh, you beat me to it. I've been waiting to say it.
You know what I mean? My microphone's working just fine.
Now, I haven't seen the movie. 50 Shades of Grey, but I understand the guy, and if I'm wrong, you guys correct me, but I think the guy is like some sort of creepy psychopathic, executive, but whatever. I'll have to watch the movie before I talk. I don't want to talk out of school. But referring to the Beast in X-Men, this guy here is known as the Beast.
Yeah.
Okay. So check out the ending scene here with Jean Grey. Jean Grey, the most powerful X-Men, she's the one who finally saves the day. She defeats this evil character. Watch this shit and listen to what he says. Pay attention to his dialogue. Here it comes. Watch this.
He's getting away.
He's getting away. Now she's reaching to the heavens. Lightning bolts. Listen, there, watch. All is revealed, he says. All is revealed. Look at her. Look at her. Right there. Look at that.
So when the phoenix rises, all is revealed.
She's the angel of light. Look at her. Look at that. And right when he says all is revealed.
Right.
Jean Grey, losing her shit, right? And then she turns into this hovering in the sky, this angel of light.
Right.
And then right after that was the scene that I showed you, was the 88 code a minute ago. That pictures I showed you with the guy in the wheelchair with the reflection of the door making an 88 on the shiny floor. So there it is. I'm done. That's all I had. I just wanted to share that with you guys.
That's cool.
That was pretty cool. I feel like we're very soon gonna we're gonna have to go into a new phase, which is we're gonna have to try to find movies that aren't coded.
Yes.
That'll be the new game, right?
That will be the new game, and I bet you have a hard time.
I bet you.
And why is that?
Because all the money behind the movies is into this.
Well, I think it's because that's actually how they even write their stories. And if they didn't write it that way and the producer is producing, he will make sure that in the background, it's just a standard story, but and maybe it's about somebody's life or whatever.
But, the interesting thing is
they will make it happen. They always do.
These stories go back to biblical times. They go back thousands of years. The story of Samson, if I'm not mistaken, in Hebrew, Samson is the man of the sun. And by the way, Samson pushes on the 2 pillars and brings the temple down, committing suicide, right?
Right.
The 2 pillars of Jaqen and Boaz again. The 12 laborers, the 12 labors of Samson, or the 12 trials of Sinbad. It's the same freaking story over and over.
Yeah, it's all astrotheology.
Yep.
I think it's really important to also consider this this possibility that maybe these, like we always talk about these stories as being thousands of years old. I think it is worth taking another look at the possibility that maybe these stories aren't as old as we think they are.
That's conceivable. That
I
is
don't know.
quite conceivable.
I think they're really old stories, because if you look at the statue, the Farnese globe, that's from 3 BC, or I mean 1 AD or something, and that already had 40 some of the constellations on the globe.
Well,
so that's going back 2,000 years.
I can give you an idea how old this is, because the precession of the equinox takes 25,920 years for the entire precession of the equinox. And this was known by the Mayans. This was known by the Babylonians.
What was
we're talking civilizations that are already 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years old. And in order to know this information, somebody had to observe for 25,920 years to see the cycle come around again.
Well, and I think that's one of the reasons that the sorcery had worked, is because I think that there was trained astronomers that learned the science of the astronomy, what would happen. And when they write a story, or they're telling a story, and they say, when this sign appears, this will happen, blah, 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 because they know, like, they understand the cycle, they know the star sign, and they know when the sun's going to be in an eclipse and all this other stuff. But if you tell that to people who really only follow the sun as far as their normal crops and stuff like that, but they don't really truly monitor it, but they do have that kind of understanding, but they're not, that sign hasn't shown for 150 years, you know, and then all of a sudden it appears 150 years, and this astronomer knows that, or this so-called prophet or sorcerer knows that. They can say something, and then it looks like they were right, and then they become revered. And I think that that's one of the things that the Hebrews were actually schooled in at younger, like there was a big portion of Hebrews that understood that, just like there was with the Greeks and the Romans. And at the same time, we actually live that to this very day, where we're constantly being bombarded with the star stuff, and yet we're so busy in our normal lives and stuff that we don't even see it. It just goes right by us, you know, and until you see it, and then you're like, whoa, it is there. Like, what the heck, you know? So for people like sorcerers and stuff, that's the same kind of thing. People are so busy with their day-to-day life, they're not paying attention to that, but the schooled are. And I don't think that those rabbis and stuff spend all that time studying because it's for nothing.
Amazing stuff, man. Amazing stuff.
Mark? Okay, I got a special request here from our friend Jerry. He would like to ask Influence, please get your guest opinion on how this actually plays out. These actors and writers, do or do they not have knowledge of what they're expressing?
I wonder if the actors do, but I'll let Influence go ahead.
Well, Keanu Reeves does, because when he is interviewed and he talks to people, he even says it's like we're writing our own mythology, and they all know that the mythology is the stars. I really think that maybe a big portion of them do, because so many of them are trained at art schools, acting schools, and because they're reading that, I think a lot of them probably do see the pattern. As a matter of fact, I think some of them, somebody like Steven Spielberg, even though he's not an actor and he's a director, and obviously he's Jewish, he, I think, probably feels like they are doing us a service because they're warning us. Like, I feel like they believe that they're the good guys. And I really do, because the way they act, it's like the way they look at us, like we're the gods and goddesses. You're supposed to look up to us now. When you think about how they really act, that is the mentality.
They do.
And yeah, and and they know that they're the movie stars, but now at what level and at what time, you know, somebody that's new to acting that barely understands it. I'm not going to say who, but there's somebody in my life who made a film, and he had some actors in it from like CSI and stuff like that. And he made it about his life or whatever. And when I talked to him about this stuff, he didn't know anything about it. Now, the thing is, though, Hollywood didn't give him his movie and told him he couldn't have his film to show until he paid $50,000. And the thing is I don't think if he doesn't understand that, he ain't going to make it. Or you got something like The Wolf of Wall Street, where if you go and read the script, yeah,
Wolf
right.
of Wall Street.
Right. Yeah, so if you go and read the script on The Wolf of Wall Street, where they have the scene in the dining room, him and Matthew McConaughey, all those numbers that they're spouting off at that table is not in the script. So I imagine that, and I believe it would probably be somebody, you know, that understands this stuff, is standing there saying, no, we're going to put all this in there. So even if the story doesn't have it, a producer or a director will make sure it's there.
Right. They'll work it in one way or another.
Right. And then some of the movie stars, I think, do get it, because like, and even if they didn't, some of them are catching on. So for example, John C. Reilly, Patricia Arquette, and several other people have been guests on that Radio 8 Ball. And on Radio 8 Ball, they talk about synchronicities in the movies and stuff, or with people's lives. They don't try to say they are the stars. They don't really do that. They try to make it more about just synchromysticism. But the stars then see another pattern, like they're being shown this is a pattern. So I think somebody like Keanu Reeves totally gets it. And I think Charlize Theron totally gets it. I think several of them totally get it, because they are, and a lot of them are trained. And I think that there's newer people that are probably partially clueless, but eventually they will get it. Yeah, Andrus Jones. Jerry put it in there. Andrus Jones. Yes, perfect. Because Andrus Jones is somebody that's, you know, constantly being talked to about the synchromysticism because of Jay Dyer and others. And I forget the guy that has the show that they call it 42 or something now. And they had the Radio 8 Ball, and Andrus Jones was a guest on that. So they know exactly what I'm talking about.
I think Blue Bloods made an interesting comment just a moment ago. He said, A-listers are A-listers.
Huh?
Right. Yeah,
oh no, that's coincidence. That's coincidence.
Yeah.
Great comment, Jay.
And a stir, isn't that a star?
A star.
Yeah. Ollie, star, Alistair.
Yeah.
Yeah. It all gets. I think there's a lot of very cool wiggle room when you do this kind of work. I like the linguistic sorts of things, and then I find it frustrating when some people are very, very rigid about how words can't mutate, right? As if these things were really, really that solid, or they needed for them, or some people need for words to be more solid than they really are, right? So it's like, if you say, Aleister Crowley. Well, that relates to the word crow, right? And then that relates to Corvus. And then there's make some other connection. And people are like, what are you, crazy, making all these connections?
Oh, when you said Corvus, I've had a connection to Corvus.
Yeah.
The constellation, or otherwise known as a deacon, the Corvus.
Mm-hmm.
When I watched Temporis video, Finis Temporis, and he was describing the deacons, and he described Corvus, I immediately thought, because again, I'm a big movie buff, the Underworld series, there is Alexander Corvinus.
Yes.
And I went digging into him, and there's a whole lot of interesting connections going on there as well.
Right, because that's your vampire versus the wolf. So Corvus over Lupus. And that's why Corvus wins.
Wow.
A lot of the times, you know. Yeah. So yeah, they hang out in the sky together, right? Yeah. And also Phoenix. So when the Phoenix rises, when you go back to gray, that the Phoenix sits on the horizon just below Pisces. So at the time of Easter, April and stuff, that's when the Phoenix is on the horizon with the sun above, up there with the reins holding the, because when the sun is in Pisces, that's like Apollo riding Pegasus, or when he's riding Pegasus to the sun, right? So it's the Phoenix right on the water in the south, and then straight above Pisces with the sun riding Pegasus.
Cool. Yeah. That is so awesome.
Yeah. And so, like, one of the things I like to tell people too, like when they're like, well, what does that get you knowing this? Like, I just want to kind of touch on that really quick. When people
please, that's interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
I'm like, well, what it does get me is it gets it to where if somebody's trying to tell me a bunch of stories and I know that they're full of shit, it helps me understand, wait a minute, your narrative does not line up to the actual evidence. So I got to go with what the evidence shows. And it kind of I feel like it frees my mind of that. While it does ensnare it in a way too, I recognize that, but I enjoy the chase, I enjoy going for the look. But the thing is that I think that when you start to understand that and you see it gets less control in a way, because you're just like, you can almost become bored with the pattern. Like the movie doesn't even hold the power anymore. I will go to watch a movie, and when I go to watch a movie, I'm not watching the movie anymore to truly be entertained like I used to be. I watch the movie now and I'm seeing stuff, and now I literally will be watching something and I'll see something being conveyed and I'm like, that's horrible what they're conveying right there. And I'm more disgusted a lot of the times by it. Even though I talk about it all the time, I'm actually oftentimes disgusted. I'll be watching a movie with my friend Chico, and I'll go like this. I'll go, oh, that's so fucked up. Oh, that's so gross. And he'll be like, oh, that's cool. But I'm seeing a whole different movie. Like I'm seeing the story and the stars playing before my eyes. And I'm seeing a real fear tactic being portrayed in there. And he's just seeing an explosion or this and that. And it's like, it's kind of disgusting and makes me, where I go to watch a movie, I oftentimes will fall asleep because I just am like, ugh. Like today I went to watch The Shining. I put that thing on from the time I woke up at 7 this morning, and I didn't finish it until almost 2 this afternoon. I kept falling asleep. Wow. And even though I'm interested, like in the twins part, like I want to know what they're showing, like what is it that they're conveying for the future. The thing is I'm so disgusted by it at the same time that my body actually goes into almost a shutdown mode. Like, fuck that. I don't even want to be bothered right now by it.
Again, I'm a big movie buff, and I was watching recently the Superman versus Batman. And this is the movie where at the end, the big fight scene, they introduced Wonder Woman. And then they finally came out with the original Wonder Woman movie, her own movie. And it turns out her name is Diana. Okay, so she's a goddess. She's Diana. Superman is obviously, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I think Superman is the Christ figure because he gets his energy from the sun. At the end of Superman versus Batman, Superman actually dies. And then at the final scene, I don't want to take up too much time to go look for it, but at the very final scene, there's like all these crosses because everything's torn apart. And so it looks like wreckage and, rebar. But there's all these crosses sticking up all over the place. Mm-hmm. So Diana as Wonder Woman, I was listening to Manly P. Hall today, and I wrote this down. Diana is the lunar deity. So we have Superman, the sun, and Diana is the moon. Diana, the lunar deity, known to the Ephesians from Athens. In her bow is the crescent moon. She's the huntress. She's hunting for the deer, also known to the Athenians and the Etruscans. The deer equals the earth-moon symbol. From the deer of the tree of Odin to the deer of Santa Claus, the reindeer, who come at night, which is the moon time, and at winter, and as in terms of the solar year, when the sun dies in winter, it's also considered nighttime, or you know, the moon reigns. Let me see. Those are all linked to the moon. She is the generator of the world. She's the great mother. She's the mother of mysteries, and all of that from Manly P. Hall. So there you go, Diana. And by the way, one more thing on top of that, we were talking about Jews in Hollywood. Yeah. This character, this female that they get to play Wonder Woman, the new Wonder Woman, not only is she Israeli, but she's ex-Israeli Defense Force. She's ex-IDF.
Right. And that's actually, yeah. So going back to the question of, do they know? I think that it's so much easier if you, okay, so let's say their story's true. So what they've explained in their own documentary, Hollywoodism, is they explained that this small group of guys, 3 or 4 guys from Poland, all within 500 miles of each other, this small group of Jews somehow went to New York City from Poland, didn't get accepted in the theater, so they decided to go to Hollywood and create Hollywood. So, I mean, I don't buy this story that this whole group of Jews just somehow ended up all together in Hollywood. But now, if you own the studio, every single person that you hire can be somebody that's already in the know.
Yep.
And that pattern is just a simple flow. And then if you hire a script writer, or you hire an author, or you hire somebody to do music, and you got one Jewish producer who produces 50 albums, no wonder it's all got the same stuff in it. You got Steven Spielberg as a producer on so many films, no wonder it's all in there. You know, and if they're not Jewish, they're trained from it, and we're all trained by it through them, whether we realize it or not. We are,
right?
You know.
Oh yeah, it's Yahwehism. I've sort of you know, there's so many words for so many things. So I like to try to find what are the best and most descriptive words. So when we talk about Western religions, we talk about Judaism, Christianity, Islam. Those are the Abrahamic religions. There's Yahwehism in them, right? It's all of that goes back to India. I think it all comes down to archetypes, right? So we can say that I think we can clearly see that the same stories are told over and over, right? But we're still talking about stories. It's many different stories with many different names for different characters. But what I think we're all picking up on is that they do fall into archetypes, and they are far more linked up and connected to each other than not, or than it would appear to be. But I think that's part of, you know, it's like it's related in a way to the Babel story of. So it's not only language that got fractured and sent to the four corners, it's also ideas and memes or mimetic kind of, or different forms of magic or different forms of technology. Everything got scattered, not just language. And I think we're in some sort of a time where we're working hard to reconstitute it and link it all back up.
Hey, Mark, you've been quiet, buddy. What have you got? Any thoughts on your side?
Well, it's, you know, we're all on the same page on a few things, because Influence says that she was about to dig into she did dig into The Shining today. Well, yeah, my brother-in-law did okay, and my mic was on mute for one, so Amy, I put it on mute, and you know what, I was trying to talk and I realized I'm on mute. But I was letting you guys go because I'm taking it in. It's now 10:09 Eastern Standard Time, and I was about to say that and I left it in the chat room, I'm about to read Stephen King's Dr. Sleep. Influence knows about Dr. Sleep, I'm sure. It's the young boy from The Shining has grown up and he encounters a young 11-year-old girl. It's just like Stranger Things, who's a very astute young special lady that these reptilian child eaters want to devour, and they're billionaires. It's almost like Stephen King is a step ahead of his time. So you're talking about the esoterics. I'm about to read this book, and I've done a few videos on the shape-shifting reptilians, but I want to go back to, I've opened up 1, 2, 3, about 7 windows here, and I haven't done a video on this, and it's so funny because I've been dying to do a follow-up video to the video I did with River Phoenix, Blind Melon, Katy Perry, and the relationship to the sunflower. And when we saw River Phoenix, one of his very last movies, he starred with Keanu Reeves, right? And the movie was called My Own Private Idaho. And he starred with River Phoenix in 1992. He played Jonathan Harker in the Francis Ford Coppola directed blockbuster Bram Stoker's Dracula. That was after he had already done the movie with River Phoenix. My Own Private Idaho, he played a young, I guess, bisexual prostitute for the men, and so did River Phoenix. And River Phoenix actually stated that while making My Own Private Idaho, he did have a sexual relationship with a male. And we go back to, the Kevin Spacey and the Hollywood and whatnot, okay? But this is a whole can of worms, because what I was listening to what Influence says, and I truly, truly believe, because a lot of my side things I look into, obviously, Hollywood and the music industry. And when you looked into My Own Private Idaho, and that's what flagged it with me, was the pedophilia that we were witnessing, even, as Corey Haim and the two Corys have been recently putting out that psyop and just, giving us smidgens of information. But I think that Keanu, my Canadian boy here from, I guess, Winnipeg, Canada, which Winnipeg is the #1 Freemason city in Canada, by the way. And that's where Keanu is a Western Canadian boy. Anyway, so he's talking about letting information slowly, he was in the Matrix. We're all in the friggin' Matrix right now, right? So I think Keanu is very, very funny. But one of the things in that movie was the two guys that were hanging and naked, him and River, in this movie, and it was almost like they were on like Playgirl magazine,
right?
And you remember that? Did you see My Own Private Idaho? I guess you might.
I don't know if I have. I might have. No? I might have.
Okay. So anyway, so it was River Phoenix. He gay kid. Okay, gay young hustler. That's basically what it was. So we go back, and now we see what's happened. In the recent years, and Keanu is seriously part of the whole. Reeves played bass guitar in a grunge band called Dog Star. Okay, hold on to Dog Star. Recently, we had Johnny Depp show up at a birthday party for Shane MacGowan. Shane MacGowan, if you recall, was the singer of that song that he did with Christy McCall. And they just played the shit out of it over Christmas, and was when he was with the Pogues, right? Well, he had his 60th birthday party the same day that Dolores O'Riordan passed away, okay? Dolores O'Riordan, as we know, is from the Cranberries. Johnny Depp showed up to support the Pogue star Shane MacGowan as the Irish musician turns out for his 60th birthday bash in Dublin the night of Cranberries star Dolores O'Riordan's passing.
Right.
Kirsty MacColl is the singer from that Christmas song that was made famous by her and the Pogue singer Shane MacGowan. She died in a horrific accident in Mexico on vacation, if you recall, several years back. Not several, a few years back. She got cut up by a propeller. And I believe she was a sacrifice as well for the hit of that song. Dolores O'Riordan was a blood sacrifice for McGowan, I truly believe. Johnny Depp showed up for his 60th birthday party. If Johnny Depp shows up to any of your party, it's a mark of death. Because guess what was going down when River Phoenix passed away?
Right.
It was the night at the Viper Room, right?
Yeah.
It was the night at the Viper Room. It's been 20 years, and I'm wrapping it up, since River Phoenix died on October 31st, 1993 at the Viper Room.
Really?
Where the 23-year-old Oscar nominee drank a speedball of heroin and cocaine dissolved into a drink before chasing it with Valium. But leading up to that night, friends and movie colleagues saw Phoenix's descent. The grain, they call it the graying, of his complexion, means death, the changes in his sweetly hippyish disposition, and warned him about the addiction. Wednesday nights became theme nights at the Vapor Room, called Mr. Moo's Adventure, named after Johnny Depp's dog. We bring back the dog.
Right.
We just talked about Keanu Reeves, the dog. We are now in the year of the dog, officially tonight. China's in the year of the dog. One Wednesday night, women in prison night, with a VIP booths turned into prison cells. Another might find a club converted into an airplane. Another would have the black walls covered with aluminum foil. Yada, yada, yada. You can go check it out. River Phoenix died of that heroin ball in Johnny Depp's The Viper Room. Johnny Depp went to Ireland the night of O'Riordan's death with U2, with our boy, and they played a song, and it's on YouTube. They reminisced about old times at the Cranberries' funeral wake at Shane McGowan's 60th birthday, attended by one and only Johnny Dr. Depp.
Wow.
There's my esoteric in 5 minutes.
Yeah, he.
Hey, hang on. Influence. Before you respond to that, I have one tiny thing to say. Johnny Depp. I don't know if you've looked into him. I assume you have something to say on the subject. But what comes to my mind right off the bat is Johnny Depp, and this is a question: is Johnny Depp the Crow? Is he Corvus? And the reason I ask is because he played Lone Ranger. He was Tonto,
Right,
and
he
on
comes up
Tonto's
with
head, he had the
crow
crow.
on the head. Yeah, so he has the crow on the head, and not only that, he represents transcendence, right? Just like he's in the movie Transcendence.
Oh shit!
So, yeah. So and so there is. I do link him myself to Corvus, and this space of Valhalla. So while you got to cross the Rainbow Bridge for that, the thing is that I do link him to the Valhalla Nordic way of viewing that, but with the Corvus and Transcendence. That's kind of where I got him at right now. I also wanted to say, if you guys go and watch the video I did on Natalie Wood, if you go to when she is born, and look, the sun at noon is directly above the boat. So it's very odd that she falls off of a boat and the sun is directly above in her sign at that time of her birth at the high time of noon with the sun. It's above the boat with her, and then she falls off the boat. So I don't know what that is with Robert Wagner and Christopher Walken. And gematria wise too, they all reduce to 7-11 each of them. So Christopher Walken 7-11, with the reversed and the ordinal, and same with Natalie Wood, and same with Robert Wagner. So all three of them have the same one.
Well, what comes to my mind is Christopher Walken is Christ. Christ is in the name Christopher. Christopher Walken, which is Christ going on his pilgrimage. And then we have Robert Wagner.
Wag the dog.
The dog wags his tail, wag the dog. Yeah.
Which pulls the boat. So that pulls the ship. So the dog tail. The story is the dog's tail. The boat.
This is a deep rabbit hole,
and Aries and Christopher I think Christopher Walken is an Aries, and if you put them all on the horizon together, you have Butez looking like he's walking with Aries on the other side with the dog pulling the boat with the tail. Yeah, they're all hanging there. It's pretty fucking crazy, honestly.
Wow. Amazing stuff, man. Amazing. Influence, you've been absolutely brilliant. We're already 20 minutes past our 3-hour mark. I love this conversation. I could do this all night with you. Let's have you back sometime very soon and pick up where we left off and just keep going, because I could do this for more.
Yes.
Another 3 hours. Easy.
And my input would be dealing with the, you know, the good and evil perspective, but yeah, it's getting late, and we can do that next time.
I'm sorry. Let me mention one other thing really quick. When you're looking when you are looking at lupus and the monster, that is also a lot of the times they'll link the Ferris wheel to that. That's why Charlize Theron monster is linked to the big Ferris wheel, or when she's with Joe, the mighty Joe, they go up the Ferris wheel. And you see in another movie, they call the Ferris wheel the Beast. It's constantly linked to lupus. So, Joe, anyways.
Wow. Well, again, this is a conversation that could go on until next week. This is one of my favorite subjects, astrotheology, the stars and the motion of the stars, the astronomical cosmological clock. Just endlessly fascinating stuff, really eye-opening, fantastic conversation. And I cannot thank you enough. You're brilliant, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks so much. I wanted to add that.
Thank you so much, everybody that came and listened to, you know.
Yep.
I wanted to add that The Shining and 2001: A Space Odyssey, I had a really similar experience to the one you described. Jay Widener's work really spoke to me, unlocked a lot of really cool vaults for me. And I would say over the last 3 years now, I think I've watched 2001 over 40 times and The Shining well over 50 times. And
my gosh.
I've spent hours on end just going frame by frame on stuff. So if you ever wanted to like really dig, you know, deeper into either of those two topics or those two movies, I would love to powwow with you.
Yeah, definitely. Feel free to add me on a Google Hangout or on Skype through Rufus if you want. And I'm always happy to talk to people, because the people who are interested in it, you know, if we are interested in it, then great, we can get together, start exploring more, and the more people who are interested in follow on the stuff they like, the more information can get out there, and then that way other people can just tune in. Or if there's tons of videos out there, I mean, just overwhelming amount, because people really like to do this, then it'll help other people who are like trying to explain something to maybe a mother or a sister or a brother or husband. Hey, look at, you see that pattern, or they'll be like, look, I could predict that for you, and here's why. And then they're like, look, that's the power that they're using, and somebody can be like, yeah, okay. And it just might help other people. That's all, you know.
Totally.
Well,
absolutely.
The best offense is a good defense.
Right.
Well, I just asked Amy to drop your URL in the live chat one more time. We're going to try to get your subscriber numbers up, because what you're doing over there needs more attention. You're doing great stuff. And after the show goes, after the broadcast live, maybe tonight, probably not, probably tomorrow, I'm going to go and join Josh's Hangout when we're done here. And probably Influence is going to go over there as well. By the way, that's where I met Influence, is over at Josh's Hangout with the We'll Do It Live on Truth Undenied channel. So you guys go and check that out if you want some more interesting conversation. He'll be up and running. In fact, he probably already is 25 minutes into it. But Amy just now dropped Influence's link to her channel in the live chat. So let's get her subscribers up if you guys are interested in this subject. She does fantastic work. Thank you again, Mark. We love you. Thanks for your contribution, buddy.
Yeah, bud.
So, listen, I've got a small contract job I got to do tomorrow. I should be back tomorrow early afternoon. Maybe we'll get together. We'll do a supplemental show, and Mark and I will just destroy this Florida thing. If he's available, maybe we can do that. But other than that, I just want to say thanks, everybody. We got some new people in the chat, and I'm not going to name names, but thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. Jerry Cthulhu and Johnny Supertramp. We had Derek from Gematria was in the chat. Just want to thank everybody for their contributions, and I appreciate you all.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank everybody. Love always.
And are you going to let me do the outro or what?
I will this time. I promise. I won't kill the broadcast, and you can do the outro. And
Woohoo!
Final thoughts, everybody. Be good to each other and pick up your trash.
My final thoughts, let's solve for psychopaths in control on our planet. That's where I always go, right? Check out my playlist on YouTube. Check out my forum, tapyoureit.boards.net, tapyoureit.boards.net.
And there it is.
Stay strong and squishy, everybody. We're all doomed.
Mark, final thoughts, buddy.
Just released a video right as you guys were going live tonight at 10 to 7. It came up right now on YouTube's algorithms. It's showing 144 views with 17 kids dead, 0 likes down. And it's called Decoding David Bowie's Valentine's Day School Massacre and the 2018 Teddy Bear Pedophile Olympics. So I'm linking the teddy bear from Fort Lauderdale shooting back to this one down in Florida with the girl holding a teddy bear. And I decode it with David Bowie's Valentine's Day song about a school or a mass shooter. So right now it's hot. And before it's news, thank them over there. They've got it at Editor's Choice, and it's killing it in the conspiracy category, over 500 views. And it just shows you how YouTube keeps me down. Before it's news, it's like rocking in categories over there if you go over and see it. But on YouTube, it's 144. Anyway, everybody, God bless you. Aaron, let's talk about it. No problem. Just give me a date, time. We'll post it and we'll go live. Okay, buddy.
Right
Thanks,
on, brother.
Amy, Bart, and Influence. You rock. And the chat room was great. I was in there watching it for the last 2 hours. Ciao, and we'll see you tomorrow. But go and watch that video.
One quick breaking news. Bart has 100 subs.
Hey, all right.
Next stop, Jupiter.
Hey, Aaron, Bart can go live now. Bart can go live.
Right on. Man, right on. We're gonna get Bart to host some shows coming up soon. We'll get his sub count up a little higher than that. But congratulations, Bart. And,
all right. Outro, ready?
I'm going to go ahead and highlight you, brother. Okay. Take us out, Bart. Take us out. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week. Oh, and by the way, I think if either next week, I haven't confirmed Rick Miracle, who does book reviews. He's brilliant. If I don't hear from Rick Miracle, then we have Truth Seeker next week. So either way, next week's going to be a good show. So we'll see you all next Friday. Take care. Go, Bart.